Councilmember White, will you lead us in the pledge? And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This evening, we are grateful to have Bhargav Chaveldi, representative of the Swaminarayan Temple, here to lead us in prayer. It's important that we recognize the community today as we start the celebration of lights in Diwali. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. And on behalf of BAPS Sri Swaminarayan Mandir in Columbus, Ohio, a warm thank you to Council President Harden, council members and staff of the City Council to give this opportunity to share our prayer. Today, millions of people around the world are celebrating a very special Hindu Sanatan festival called Diwali, the Festival of Lights. Our heartfelt greetings to all of you on this auspicious day. The Asian Indian community of Columbus, Ohio expresses gratitude to President Harden and the council members for recognizing and honoring Diwali since many years in this council chamber. So on this day, I offer a simple prayer. Please let us join in the prayers. We pray, may the Almighty Power bless Council President, council members, and the staff with strength, empathy, courage, and wisdom to guide through progress of this great city of Columbus. May the Almighty Power guide our city's leaders to lead the city with compassion, and may their leadership help and support our community with love to thrive together as one Columbus. May God bless all the residents with health, wealth, prosperity, safety, peace, and joy. Om Shanti. Thank you, and happy Diwali to each one of you and your families. And we have some sweets on behalf of the BAPS Swaminarayan Mandir for the whole staff, which we'll leave with the staff. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and happy Diwali.
Thank you.
Thank you. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bankston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorns, Green, Remy, Weiss, President Harden. Any person who takes any action to obstruct or interfere with the conduct of tonight's meeting may be charged with disturbing a lawful meeting pursuant to Columbus City Code 2317.12. Any person who enters those areas of city council chambers reserved for city officials or invited guests may be charged with criminal trespass pursuant to Columbus City Code 2311.21.
Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal? Is there a second? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bankston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorns, Green, Remy, Weiss, President Harden.
Are there any additions or corrections to the journal? Hearing none, the journal is approved. This week's communications received by the city clerk's office are listed on the agenda and will be published in the city bulletin. Are there any other communications to be read into the record?
Not at this time.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We're going to go around the dais for updates and resolutions from members of council. We'll start with Councilmember Bankston. Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Rosa de Padilla.
Thank you, Council President. I have two announcements. First, tomorrow is the Big Table. This is an event hosted by the Columbus Foundation, well, actually hosted by all of you, started by the Columbus Foundation, where there's table conversations around the city on different topics, ways to come together to build community, ways to find solutions, ways to collaborate together. I'm excited that we will be hosting a Big Table Talk at Zora's House, with Zora's House in Motherful for a conversation on mothering. I'm looking forward to the chance to listen, connect, and share ideas about how we can better support mothers and caregivers in our community. I invite folks, if you're not already part of a Big Table, I know that there are some that have opportunities. You can Google Big Table Columbus, and then you can look at the different events. I encourage folks to join one tomorrow. Secondly, I'd like to invite everyone to join me this Thursday at 3 p.m. here in council chambers for a public hearing on pay transparency. As part of my Columbus growth strategy, I'm introducing legislation that would require employers to include a reasonable salary range in job postings. Pay transparency helps to close the wage gap, promotes fairness, and ensures that everyone can enter the job market on a level playing field. If you would like to provide written testimony or come in person, you can reach out to my office by noon on Thursday to be included as part of the lineup of speakers. That's all for me, Council President. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Beatty.
Nothing this evening.
Thank you. Councilmember Day-Akauer.
Nothing for me, thank you.
Press Pro Tem.
Thank you, Council President. I want to invite my guests forward as I introduce Resolution 0235X-2025 to recognize the impact of the federal government shutdown on residents of Columbus, Ohio. So, Patty, Jamie, do you guys want to come on up? Thanks. This past week, I had the opportunity to join some federal workers who work for the Social Security Administration on the west side of Columbus. These workers are going their first week without receiving pay due to the federal government shutdown. Yet these workers are being required to show up every single day to provide service to our residents right here in Columbus and right here in Central Ohio. I met a young woman named Sierra who has 2 kids under the age of 5 who's trying to juggle paying for gas, childcare, housing expenses, keep food on the table, while, again, she's going without, and her husband, who also is a federal employee, is also going without a paycheck. There are over 15,000 federal workers that call our region home. And each one of these families are being affected by the uncertainty economically that's been created by this federal government shutdown. This resolution here tonight calls on federal leaders to fund our federal government and fix our healthcare crisis while putting working people in our community first. Patty Davis-Sato, who represents the federal unionized workers with the American Federation of Government Employees Local 3448, is here with Jamie Shoemaker, who's our executive director of our Central Ohio Labor Council. Just wanted to make sure that we had an opportunity to make sure that we both thanked our federal workers who are still helping to keep our communities running, even when they're going without a paycheck, but also remind folks when this is an issue that, sort of front page in the newspaper the first couple of days, but as this has went now weeks, has now oftentimes receded in the background for folks. And it's certainly not in the background for federal workers right now by any stretch for them and their families to take care of themselves. So with that, Patty, I wanted to give the floor to you to talk a little bit more about what we're dealing with.
Thank you. Hello, and thank you, President Hardin and council members, for allowing me to speak in favor of this resolution. Federal employees are working behind the scenes, making federal government operate so that American citizens don't have to think about it. We make sure Social Security checks are paid, your baby's formula is safe, your workplace has the proper fire exits, your flight is safe, and veterans are cared for, and you get your mail, and your community is safe when the measles breaks out. All those things the federal workers do behind the scenes. We live, work, and spend money in our communities. We volunteer at our children's schools. We coach Little League teams. We are your neighbors. We serve the American public. Unfortunately, today that means federal workers work without getting paid or that we're locked out of our jobs. Federal employees just want to work and be paid for their labor. To make it worse, the administration is threatening to fire employees while they are furloughed and locked out of their job. We are in the 3rd week of the government shutdown because the U.S. Congress is failing to do their job. American workers are suffering. They have to, as he said, continue to pay for childcare and gas expenses without a paycheck. To be clear, the debate in Congress right now is over health care. Costs for Americans, the public we serve. Although a government shutdown is traumatic for federal employees and causes temporary service disruptions for the American public, we cannot significantly increase health care costs for millions of Americans, many of whom are the most vulnerable among us. We need Congress to work together and compromise. Our government can reopen and provide the public service the American taxpayer has paid for. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patty. Do any of my colleagues have a question? Councilmember Bankston.
Thank you, President Pro Tem, for really shining a light on this. And just want to thank you to all of your members and all non-members, and everyone that's working for the federal government, thank you, because you all continue to show up. And not to draw comparisons, because I think what we do here at the city pales in comparison to the federal government, but we are also going into our budget season, and it is a very tight budget and austere budget. But as we go through that, it is my hope that we put our people first, and that we understand that tough decisions will have to be made. And as my office leads through that effort, through our budgeting process, that we keep that centered. Because I think that's what's been lost in Washington, is that there are people at the center of this. And you all are the people that power America. And so I just wanted to say thank you, President Pro Tem, for always standing up for workers and always shining lights on this. And it's a reminder to all of us that when government is dysfunctional, the people who suffer the most are the residents at the end of the day. So thank you for all being in there. I echo your thoughts that both sides need to get back to the table, need to figure out how we reopen our government. But absolutely, there are values and things that we should not budge on. But at the same token, there's a way for us to continue to have our government function while we work through those as adults. And I think that this body and what we do here locally stands out and is different. So thank you again for all that you're doing. Thank you again, Jamie, for always being an advocate, and appreciate you all.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any other questions, comments from colleagues? Seeing none, I move for adoption.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Weiss, President Harden.
Adopted.
That's all from me, Council President.
Thank you, Pres Pro Tem. Councilmember Green. Councilmember Remy.
Thank you very much, Council President Harden. Good evening, everyone. I have one resolution this evening, and before I begin, I'd like to invite up Tom Katzenmeyer, President and CEO of the Greater Columbus Arts Council, and Jamie Goldstein, Chief Executive Officer. Tom and Jamie, thank you for being here this evening. Tonight, I have Resolution 234-2025, supporting the recommendations of the Greater Columbus Public Art Strategy to guide the development of new public art throughout the city of Columbus. As a board member of the Greater Columbus Arts Council, I'm proud to share this milestone for our city. I want to thank Tom Katzenmeyer for his leadership and Jamie Goldstein for driving this process throughout. GCAC has championed public art in Central Ohio for over 3 decades, advancing creativity, supporting artists, and shaping the cultural identity of our community. This resolution builds on that legacy through a comprehensive strategy to guide how public art continues to grow and thrive throughout Columbus. It reflects the heart of our city, informed by feedback from over 2,000 residents and celebrating the diversity and creativity that makes Columbus unique. Moving forward, GCAC will expand opportunities for public art by commissioning new works and partnering with artists, neighborhoods, and local organizations to bring creative ideas to life. Tom, Jamie, I'd like to turn the floor over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, President Harden, Councilmember Remy, distinguished members of council. We are so grateful for this resolution to mark an historic moment in the city of Columbus. For the first time, Columbus and Franklin County will have a strategy to guide public art making and efforts in our community. The Greater Columbus Public Art Strategy provides the tools, resources, and paths forward to support artists, neighborhoods, municipalities, and developers to create more public art throughout our community. As our neighborhoods grow and transform, public art has the power to tell our stories, create shared civic pride, enhance tourism and economic development, and ensure that the character of our region is defined not only by buildings and infrastructure, but also by imagination, culture, and creativity. For 2 years, we have worked with our friends in the city and county and the community, our neighbors, our artists, our civic leaders, to craft this strategy. We could not have accomplished this work without the support of City of Columbus, without the support of City Council, without the support of Mayor and Franklin County, or without the guidance and hard work of the team at Lord Cultural Resources who helped guide this work. There are many people to thank. I apologize in advance if I miss anyone. This list is shorter than it should be, I'm sure. Thank you to Council President Harden and all of our City Council members, Mayor Ginther, Franklin County Commissioners, our 21-person steering committee, Director Stevens at the Department of Development, and so many city staff members, Aaron Prosser, Jennifer Fenning, Sophie Vogel, Mark Dervillis, Randy Borntrager, and the Department of Public Service staff, Director of Rec and Parks, Bernita Reese, Jason Nicholson, and all the members of the Columbus Art Commission, our colleagues at Lord, Holly Shen, Natalie McLean-Bonasso, Jamie Bennett, our public engagement team, Jonna Twig, Marshall Shorts, and Maria Marires, and to each one of the 2,000-plus residents in our community, including artists, who provided input throughout this process. And my deepest thanks to Tom Katzenmeyer and the GCAC staff and board for making public art part of our strategic planning process and supporting it for the past 2 years. And Tom, I just want to say, I'm so happy that we could get this done and this can be part of your legacy. Because if you don't know, he's retiring very soon and we're going to miss him. We're going to miss him very much. I am just really, really happy that we're here tonight. The strategy is a really great start. It's just a start because it's merely a guide for the living, breathing work that GCAC still has yet to do, and we are committed to continuing to do through advocacy, programming, and support. With strong leadership and collaboration across the public and private sectors, Columbus has an unprecedented opportunity to redefine itself as a national leader in public art and become a region where creativity is a part of daily life. Artists are supported to do their best work, and every resident can see their story reflected in the public realm. We know that together we will build greater art, and together we will build greater Columbus for all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And do you have anything to say, Tom?
Do I have anything to say?
I'll give you that opportunity.
I just want to add my thanks. This is a very long process, and tell you that we are very anxious as we move into the new year soon to get some projects going. So thank you again very much. All
Well,
of you. Yeah.
I want to thank the not quite retired
Yeah.
Tom Katzenmeyer, who is maybe the longest retirement ever, too. But
It has been, yes.
I know you wanted to start seeing the grandchildren months ago regularly, but we're excited to add this to your list of legacies for the city of Columbus. And the contributions you made to our arts community is really outstanding and really untold. There's so much more to talk about, and I think that we look forward to celebrating you further as we move towards a new CEO in December, but certainly thank you for, I remember the initial meeting and having this conversation in the early stages, and it's been a very long but a very thorough process that I know will lead Columbus to much greater public art and a commitment throughout our city for continual investment that we'll see regularly, and I think that's so important in a thriving city like Columbus. I know where I got to go next. I got to go to my colleague and fellow board member, Lourdes Barosa de Padilla.
Thanks, council member. I'm so excited for this public art plan because what we know to be true is that artists are natural developers. When an artist can transform a space, an empty canvas, which when I look across the city of Columbus, I just see empty canvases. But, I started 614 Beautiful Murals on Main because we had this vacuum where, unless you were in the core part of downtown, people did not have beautiful spaces. People did not have that sense of community pride, a place that they could drive by and see themselves in their community, see a beautiful piece of art that enhances a building that is yet to be another creative space or a business or something else that it is going to house inside of it, but it can have art outside of it. And so having this public art plan, we know, also drives our economy because it drives tourism, it drives development. Art is so much more than just art, right? And so I'm excited to have this plan. I'm excited that GCAC will be leading all of us as a community into the future of Columbus. And as we talk about transportation, as we talk about housing, as we talk about all these things that make a community whole and it takes care of people, art has to be part of that conversation. It helps to heal. It helps to bring people together. It's a form of activism. It's an economic driver. It hits all of those points. And so as a city, especially a city of our size, as we move to the future, this has to be part of our strategy because this is yet another way that we also take care of the people who take care of us as a community. And that's all these amazing artists that do everything from culinary arts to what we wear, to what we see. And if we're really going to be a leader in that industry, we need to ensure that we're making the right investments. So I just want to thank you all for continuing to put art at the forefront of the conversation for our community and to bring us into the next several decades of a much more beautiful and colorful Columbus.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, council member. Any other comments? Seeing none, I move for adoption.
And Tom, know that this is just the beginning of your thank you. So the rest of the 9 of us did not speak because we're saving it for the retirement celebration when we bring you back to celebrate all your contributions to Columbus.
I might. We'll see.
He's threatening to just disappear, but we're not, that's not going to happen.
Nah, that's not expectation. Council, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Weiss, President Harden.
Adopted. Thank you, Mr. Remy, Councilmember Remy. Councilmember White.
Thank you, Council President. One quick announcement and then a resolution. First, just wanted to invite everyone, tomorrow afternoon, we'll be having a Public Utilities and Sustainability Committee hearing to review draft legislation for utility reselling and recycling expansion access. The hearing will start at 3:30 p.m. and will be held at the Rumpke Recycling and Resource Center at 1190 Joyce Avenue. Following the hearing, there will be an opportunity to tour the recycling facility. It's exciting. You should check it out. If you're interested in submitting testimony for the hearing, please email my aide, Chelsea Goldsman, at CLGOLTEERMAN@columbus.gov. And for those interested in the optional tour, please RSVP on my Eventbrite. Next, I'd like to introduce Resolution 0233X-2025 to celebrate and recognize October as National Disability Employment Awareness Month. As I read this resolution, I'd like to invite Christine Brown, representing the Nisonger Center at Ohio State University and the Franklin County Self-Advocate Advisory Council, and Dot Yeager, the Superintendent of the Franklin County Board of Developmental Disabilities, to the podium. National Disability Employment Awareness Month was first recognized in 1988 with the purpose of acknowledging the importance of increasing opportunities for people with disabilities in the workforce. Since its initial recognition, the Americans with Disability Act of 1990 was passed, with one of the provisions being to ban employment discrimination for those with disabilities and mandate employers provide reasonable accommodations. In almost 40 years since the first National Disability Employment Awareness Month, so much has changed regarding the inclusivity in the workforce. But we know there's always more that can be done to remove barriers to employment to ensure that everyone has an opportunity to be self-sufficient through gainful employment and experience a sense of belonging in the workplace. Thank you both, Dot and Christine, for coming in and helping us to highlight the importance of disability inclusion in the workforce. Would you like to share a few remarks?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Council White. I can't say the name.
You're good.
Thanks for this opportunity. Yes, this is Disability Employment Awareness Month. As you know, we strive to see that as more people work out in the community, they are showing passion to show that they work and being a contributing taxpayer, member of society, and in just for education. In 2012, there was this Employment First executive order by former Governor John Kasich that got signed into law. So we focus to see that people with disabilities are striving to be getting jobs, and there's a lot of employers that when they hire people with disabilities, they can get tax credits. So we all want to see people work and strive. So thank you.
And I'd also offer my thanks. I know you all are very supportive of this. I'm with the Franklin County Board of Developmental Disabilities, where we serve about 13,000 of our county residents at any one point in time, from birth all through the lifespan. And right now, our statistics say that there are about 800 of our folks who are in competitive employment in the community. And as you noted in your introductory comments, we have a lot more work to do. So we really appreciate you spotlighting this matter and appreciate being here.
Thank you both for being here and for your continued advocacy. Do any of my colleagues have questions or comments they'd like to make? Seeing none, I move for adoption.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Weiss, President Harden.
Adopted. Thank you, Councilmember. As I start to speak, I want to invite up the chapter president of Alpha Phi Alpha, Alpha Rho Lambda chapter, Bro President Teague, as well as Bro Roseboro to come forward. I wanted to lift up an exciting documentary film titled When We Free the World. It's about manhood and fatherhood. It was produced by Kevin Powell and Eveline Lawson. Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity is sponsoring my chapter, Alpha Lambda, is sponsoring the Ohio premiere on October 23rd at 6:30 p.m. at the Lincoln Theater, which will include a conversation with the filmmaker who will be in town. We wanted to make sure that everybody had an opportunity to know about this film and know that we were bringing together the community this way. So I invited Bro President down to formally invite the community out to be a part of this occasion. Bro President Teague.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Greetings, President Harden, esteemed members of council and staff, and our friends and family members that are part of our Columbus community. I am Thomas Jeremiah Teague, Jr., and I am the president of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, Alpha Rho Lambda here in Columbus, Ohio. So wanted to make sure that we had some time today to come by and express and invite you all out to this auspicious event that's taking place on October 23rd, this coming Thursday, at the Great Lincoln Theater. You know, from 6:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m., having an opportunity to meet with our own brother coming in from New York City with his film and with his wife, to be able to present the film, the documentary on When We Free the World. And I like to highlight, don't take that lightly, because when we free the world, it will be something to see. So I want you all to be able to have the opportunity to be there, to see this opportunity, to see this documentary, so that you can have the opportunity to feel the passion, to find out exactly how we're looking at moving forward with manhood and how we're looking at moving with fatherhood in our communities.
I just want to thank you, President Harden, and the rest of council for allowing us these few minutes to speak on that film. I saw it in Dayton a couple months ago, and I was greatly moved. Yeah. And I was sorely disappointed that my son wasn't with me and other members of our community to be there. So after the film, I had a conversation with Brother Powell. He said, I would love to come to Columbus. And I said, we'll see if we can make that happen. And fortunately and graciously, the brothers of Alpha Phi Alpha, Alpha Rho Lambda chapter, are making it happen. And we'd like to see you all there Thursday evening.
We're really grateful. It was the advocacy of Bro Roseboro that brought this here, but we want to fill the theater. We don't want to have this gym in the city and folks not come out and see it. So we're inviting everybody to come out. It's free and open to the public this Thursday at the Lincoln Theater at 6:30 p.m.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Next, I'm going to take presidential privilege and invite up members of local AFSCME Local 2191, President William Harmon, as well as Union Steward John Henry. You guys can come forward. There have been conversations over the last several months around how do we protect and support our workers in Columbus Public Health, and they work to bring folks downtown to City Hall today. and I wanted to move this up so that we could respect them, thank them for their work, allow for the health commissioner, assistant health commissioner to answer or to have any response, and then move forward this evening. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. John Henry.
Thank you. Good evening, Columbus City Council President Hardin and Columbus City Council members. My name is John Henry Jr. I represent over 200 public health professionals who are proud to work at Columbus Public Health with AFSCME Local 2191. I come here to oppose this administration's bid to privatize the work of our internal lab at Columbus Public Health, eliminating 4 union medical technologist positions and requiring time-sensitive testing to be shipped across the country to non-union workers in Texas. As a union president and as a resident of Columbus, I have some grave concerns about the bid that was selected by the Columbus Public Health Commissioner, Dr. Roberts. CPH has accepted a bid that could potentially deny testing requests and delay test results and treatment. The bid will also shut down the state's only public health facility that offers STAT, urgent testing, for infections like syphilis and HIV. All of these consequences will put public health in jeopardy. Columbus Public Health's medical technologists serve a vulnerable population whose access to health care is limited. Many CPH patients lack reliable transportation, stable housing, and overall economic security. We need to be able to test and treat our patients quickly and effectively, and having an internal lab allows us to achieve this. This change in testing procedures will double or even triple the treatment timeline, making the patients we serve and the public they interact with less healthy and less safe. This proposal does not add up. The number of allotted tests across the board are grossly undercounted. The bid underrepresents the number of tests our lab currently processes. One example, in 2024, CPH lab professionals conducted nearly 6,400 trichomoniasis screenings, a highly communicable sexually transmitted infection that could lead to increased risk of other STIs, as well as pelvic inflammatory disease, PID, in women. The bid, on the other hand, estimates only 750 trichomoniasis tests would be performed in 2026. The administration has cited recent changes in testing protocol on who receives trichomoniasis testing. However, this huge discrepancy cannot be explained by a change in testing protocol alone. Since the change was implemented, the number of tests have only reduced by a few hundred, not several thousand. The consequences will be devastating. If the bid is adopted, either fewer patients will be tested and treated for contagious sexually transmitted infections, or the department will have to incur the premium costs since it is unaware of the actual costs of testing that for-profit lab may charge. The city may face an untested and untreated public or foot astronomical bill it could have easily avoided. The loss of a STAT testing facility in Columbus will harm the city of Columbus. Finally, CPH will no longer be able to provide STAT testing for STI infections like syphilis and HIV. Our lab techs can test adhering with the state's protocols and provide treatment plans within a few hours for patients testing for HIV and syphilis. The testing services CPH provides is a vital public service. This is only possible because CPH has one of the only public health testing facilities in the state. Our health commissioner, Dr. Roberts, believes this fact is, quote, not a point of pride. I wholeheartedly disagree with Dr. Roberts. In 2017, the city purchased top-of-the-line lab equipment. Our members have the resources they need and the expertise and skills to continue to provide the excellent services our community relies on. Privatizing lab services and eliminating these positions does not add up on any level. Using a for-profit lab will mean fewer tests that take much longer to process. We know that the City of Columbus, and especially this council, believe that every employee who works for the city deserves respect and dignity. We also understand that the health and well-being of the residents of Columbus are a top priority. This bid flies in the face of those values, and we ask that council reject this bid. 5 years ago, CPH staff, including these 4 medical technologists, were called upon to step away from their primary roles and help with the COVID-19 pandemic. At that time, we were all referred to as essential and public health heroes. Now we find ourselves expendable. Since January of this year, public health across the country has faced some of the most significant threats to our work. Here in Columbus, we have already seen layoffs due to changes in grant funding, and we expect those threats to continue. We hope we can count on this council to be a partner in protecting public services and the hardworking men and women who provide those services. Please reject this bid when it comes before you.
And next we'll have Will Harmon, who's president of Local 1632. Will, welcome.
Thank you, President Harden. Good evening, President Harden, other members of City Council, and city directors. My name is Will Harmon. I am the president of ASME Local 1632. I represent just over 2,400 City of Columbus employees. I am here speaking today in solidarity and support of ASME 2191 against a proposed bid that will privatize the vital public testing services that our residents rely on. Our shutdown the state's only remaining public health lab. As public service professionals, my members and I provide the services and goods that keep our city running and residents depend on. I can tell you after 20 years with the City of Columbus, the privatization of public services does more harm than good. Oftentimes, administrations will talk of savings in taxpayer funds or in a more efficient delivery of services. I can say firsthand that is not the case. Privatizing services can lead to lack of accountability and transparency. As public employees, we do this work because we take pride in our work and we care about our communities. Our bottom line is not profit. It is the communities and the residents we serve. I urge this council to vote against any bid that will privatize any public service, especially one as critical to public health as testing services. Thank you all.
Thank you both, presidents. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for representing our employees. These are our people and our families, and so we appreciate it. I think I speak for council in saying that, one, we're just getting briefed on this, so there have not been any decisions yet made. But we know that this is a tough budget and we have to make tough decisions. So sometimes it's not even about what you do, it's how you do it in terms of supporting our families and our workers. And so we are going through that process of working with, listening to, and asking questions of public health. And so I wanted to ask Assistant Health Commissioner if she had any initial remarks, knowing that we will not figure this out tonight, that we're going to stay at the table and we're going to try to continue to take care of our employees. Commissioner.
Thank you. Good evening, President Harden, Councilmember Green, and members of council. Can you hear me okay, everybody?
Pull it down a little bit.
This one fits a little bit better. Can you hear me okay? It's green.
There we go. Try now.
All right, can you hear me?
There we
Great.
go.
Perfect. Good evening, President Harden, Councilmember Green, and members of council. Columbus Public Health is required to have one reference lab for Epic. It's an electronic health record system that we're implementing in May of 2026. It's really going to modernize our technology of our clinic services, and it's the system that's used by all the hospitals in Columbus. It's really going to provide better service to our community. This improvement on behalf of our clients is resulting in having some budget savings as well, and that requires us to subcontract lab services to an outside vendor. It's unfortunate this change will impact the 4 employees, but as responsible stewards of public dollars, we are saving almost $250,000 annually with the change, while also improving our services to the public. It's important to note that we have estimated the contract higher based on lab vendors' ability to invoice insurance. Since this number is undetermined, we really had to go with that higher number to estimate. So I'm assuming it's going to be more than $250,000 savings annually. Furthermore, our estimated lab numbers reflect current guidance and best practices for testing. We are confident that this lab arrangement will not cause any delays in professional care that we provide to our clients through consultation with our medical directors. As good stewards of funding and to benefit the health of our community, this plan to subcontract is necessary and critical to the health and safety of our entire community, especially as we move through the times of scarce public dollars. I'm happy to answer any further questions.
Thank you, Commissioner. Like I said, we're not going to engage much more tonight because I think this is a lot, there's much more conversation to be had. It is, council's expectation that we work with our local unions. These are your employees, our employees. So we want to make sure that we are thinking about the health of our residents, but also the health and wellness of our employees. And so we look forward to being at the table with you as we work through, as you pointed out, a challenging budget that both takes care of our employees, but also provides service to our residents. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments from our other elected officials here this evening? Seeing none, are there any requests by members of council for the removal of an ordinance or resolution from consent portion of the agenda? And we now have a motion to waive the reading of titles of third-day legislation by the city clerk. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Thank you. Will the clerk now read into the record ordinance numbers on 30-day legislation for tonight?
In Finance and Governance Committee, we have Resolution 214X-2025, ordinances 2582, 2611, 2645, 2662, 2674, 2686-2025, Economic Development and Small and Minority Business Committee, ordinances 2667 and 2668-2025, Public Service and Transportation Committee, ordinance 2550 and 2566-2025, Neighborhoods, Recreation, and Parks Committee, ordinance 2578-2025, Workforce, Education, and Labor Committee, ordinance 2613-2025, Public Utilities and Sustainability Committee, ordinances 2420, 2436, 2476, 2483, 2523, 2567, 2600, 2615, and 2727-2025, Housing, Homelessness, and Building Committee, ordinances 2554, 2638, 2639, 2640, and 2666-2025. And Rules and Policy Committee, we have ordinances 2221-2025. Zoning Committee, we have rezonings and amendments 2789-2025. Variances 2378-2025.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We don't have any speakers on the consent portion of the agenda. The following ordinance appear on our agenda as consent actions. Will the clerk now read those into the record?
Resolutions of expression 232X, 228X, 231X-2025. Finance and Governance Committee, we have ordinances 2252, 2339, 2552, 2568, 2725, 2726, and 2826-2025. Economic Development and Small and Minority Business, ordinance 2597-2025. Public Service and Transportation Committee, resolution 223X-2025, ordinances 2463, 2603-2025. Neighborhoods, Recreation, and Parks Committee, ordinances 2261, 2572, 2573, 2584, 2592-2025. Workforce, Education, and Labor Committee, ordinances 2541, 2571, 2581, 2591, 2649, and 2803-2025. Health, Human Services, and Equity Committee, ordinances 2417, 2497, 2500, 2598, 2619, and 2687-2025. Public Safety and Criminal Justice Committee, ordinance 2536, 2577, 2596, and 2607-2025. Public Utilities and Sustainability Committee, ordinances 2214, 2456, 2459, 2460, 2465, 2506, 2537, 2545, 2569, 2589, 2656, and 2673-2025. Appointments from the mayor, 138, 139, 140, 141, and 142-2025.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Again, we don't have any speakers on the consent portion of the agenda. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues on the consent agenda? Hearing none, may I have a motion for approval of these items? Clerk, please call the roll by voice.
Bangston,
Yes, with the exception of ordinances 2573, 2591, and 2577-2025, from which I abstain.
Barosa de Padilla,
Yes.
Beatty,
Yes.
Day Akauer,
Yes.
Dorans, Green, Remy, White, President Harden.
Yes, the consent agenda passed with the noted exceptions. We'll now proceed with the second reading of 30-day postponed emergency legislation. The first committee to come before council is the Public Service and Transportation Committee, and that committee is chaired by Councilmember Barosa de Padilla.
Thank you, Council President. Well, the weather is changing, my friends. And before we know it, we're going to blink and it goes from fall to winter. So the next set of ordinances that you will see on the agenda is related to our upcoming winter season. The Department of Public Service administers a variety of municipal services within the City of Columbus necessary to public health and safety, including snow removal and de-icing during inclement weather. With more than 90,000 lane miles, this could be like a quiz. I could ask you this question because you're going to hear it many more times. 90,000 lane miles of roadways to service each winter. The Department of Public Service seeks the assistance of other jurisdictions and independent contractors to supplement city crews on local roadways. So first we have Ordinance 2642, 2025 to authorize the Director of the Department of Public Service or a designee to enter into a contract with TNT Power Wash Incorporated, doing business as TNT Services, for the provision of snow removal and de-icing services this winter, to waive the competitive bidding requirements of the Columbus City Codes, to authorize the expenditure of $75,600 from the Street Construction Maintenance and Repair Fund for those purposes, and to declare an emergency. This ordinance authorizes a contract with TNT Services to provide 6 trucks and drivers to clear snow and de-ice roads during heavy snowfall this coming winter, to assist in snow and ice removal operations on an on-call basis. So just so we're clear, this is a set-aside. Obviously, we cannot predict the winter. So this is so that we have the money in the budget with an agreement with a particular contractor should we need it. Should we not, that money then goes back into the budget. Correct, Assistant Director?
Thank you, Chair. Councilmember Barosa de Padilla. That is largely the case. There is a small retainer that we do provide to assure these companies that they stand by to plow our streets and roadways first, and if we call them up. And so we do offer a retainer, so there will be some cost. However, the majority of this is to give us 14 additional trucks to go into residential areas, those residential streets, to make sure that in the case of a snowfall of 4 inches or higher, that they're seeing plows on the roadways as snow falls and right afterwards, and not 72 hours after.
Thank you. And so that the same is true for the next ordinance, and I believe we had one ordinance at our last meeting. So the same is true for all of these ordinances. This is, again, just a set aside in case of when we reach a certain level, then we can call on these companies.
That's correct, Councilwoman.
Perfect. Okay, do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, Day Akauer, Dorans, Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Perfect. Next ordinance, 2643, 2025, to authorize the Director of Public Service or designee to execute a service contract with Duncan Sales Incorporated, doing business as Citywide Facility Solutions Columbus, for the provision of snow removal and de-icing services this winter, to waive the competitive bidding requirements of the Columbus City Codes, to authorize the expenditure of $55,800 from the Street Construction Maintenance and Repair Fund for that purpose, and to declare an emergency. This ordinance authorizes a contract with Duncan Sales, doing business as Citywide Facility Solutions, to provide 2 trucks and staff to clear snow and de-ice roads during heavy snowfall this coming winter, to assist in snow and ice removal operations on an on-call basis. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, Day Akauer, Dorans, Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. And just an early reminder that as the weather changes, that all of our snow warriors are our friends and neighbors. And so remember to have kindness in your heart as inclement weather hits, that they are all clearing our roads and working around the clock to keep us all safe. That is all for me this evening, Council President. Thank you.
Wow, our first weather public service announcement. It's too early. It's too early.
Let's hope we need it, as the weather is wacky these days. Thank you.
Yes, Madam Chair. The next committee to come before council is the Public Safety and Criminal Justice Committee. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Remy. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Council President. Let me get to the right document. There we go. All right, thank you very much. I have ordinance number 2486, 2025, to authorize the Director of Department of Public Safety on behalf of the Division of Police to enter into contract with Penn Link Limited to continue software licenses and subscriptions services that aid in obtaining and analyzing electronic information crucial to resolving cases, to waive the competitive bidding provisions of the Columbus City Codes, to authorize the expenditure of $139,680.33 from the Law Enforcement Contraband Seizure Fund, and to declare an emergency. Telestaff serves as the division's staffing backbone, managing daily and emergency shift assignments, ensuring compliance with labor and operational requirements, and improving overall efficiency. The system integrates with payroll and timekeeping tools, providing accurate, real-time scheduling for more than 1,600 uniformed personnel. The proposed agreement establishes a 3-year term with the option for 2 additional 1-year renewals, followed by subsequent annual renewals. The year 1 cost is $172,800. This continued investment will sustain a mission-critical system that supports the division's operational readiness, improves accuracy in staffing and overtime management, and enhances transparency across all stations. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Pass.
Next, I have 2564, 2025, to authorize the expenditure of $210,000 from the general fund for the second year of a 3-year contract with Sound Thinking, Inc., formerly ShotSpotter, Inc., for use of a gunfire detection, alert, and analysis program in the Phase 2 coverage area, to waive the competitive bidding provisions of the Columbus City Code and to declare an emergency. City of Columbus originally established its agreement with ShotSpotter through Ordinance 2151, 2018, with subsequent modifications approved in Ordinance 2543, 2022, and Ordinance 2178, 2024. The current 3-year term runs from June 30th, 2024 through June 29th, 2027. Sound Thinking provides a subscription-based service using a network of acoustic sensors installed in designated neighborhoods to track, detect, and analyze gunfire incidents. The system transmits real-time alerts to the Division of Police, notifying officers of the precise location of gunfire and improving response times. The technology supports quicker aid to victims, enhances officer safety, assists in investigations, and aids in the collection of evidence leading to the apprehension of dangerous offenders. Funding authorized under this ordinance will support the second year of operations within a 12-square-mile coverage area, maintaining 24/7, 365-day monitoring service and ensuring continuity of data and analysis for ongoing investigations. This continued investment aligns with the Division of Police's broader violence reduction and community safety strategies, providing critical situational awareness and technological support for the public safety personnel. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Pass.
Finally, I have 2672, 2025, the settlement of Lonnie Henry and KG versus City of Columbus, to authorize and direct the city attorney to settle the claims of Lonnie Henry and KG, a minor, to authorize the expenditure of $1 million in settlement of these claims, to authorize the transfer of $1 million within the general fund, and to declare an emergency. I am going to turn this over to Deputy Chief of Staff Brian Shin in the City Attorney's Office for further explanation of this settlement. Brian?
Thank you, Chair Remy, President Harden, and members of council. This settlement involves an incident in which CPD officers removed a child from his father's care and gave the child to the mother. The father had legal custody while the mother did not have custody. The mother then adopted the child for 7 months with no contact with the father. Although no lawsuit has been filed, the father asserts state law tort claims and violation of his and the child's civil rights. Would you like me to start over? Or?
Okay.
Okay. We believe that if this case were to go to trial, that the probability of the city being found liable is high, and a significant award of attorney fees would be possible. In order to avoid paying a significant award of attorney's fees beyond the father's and the child's damages, we believe that it is in the best interest of the city to settle this matter. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Shin. I'm going to now turn it over to the Director of Public Safety, Kate Bishotti, for her statement.
Council President Harden, can you hear me? Council President Harden, Council Chair Remy, council members. This was a horrible, unintentional mistake by two of our officers. These officers incorrectly interpreted legal documents from the court, mistaking a time-stamped court motion for a court order. As a result of this misunderstanding, the non-custodial parent unlawfully took the child for 7 months. As a parent, I cannot imagine the anguish of the custodial parent. This case was independently investigated by the Office of the Inspector General, which resulted in a sustained finding against the officers involved. Both officers received corrective counseling and underwent retraining. As an added measure, this case was used to retrain officers division-wide on issues of court orders, custody, and interference with custody. It is our sincere hope and belief that this example, along with this additional training, will prevent something like this from ever happening again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm now going to ask if any of my colleagues have any questions. Councilmember Rosa De Padilla.
Thank you, Chair. Director, when you mentioned that there was also retraining for the officers, does that happen on a yearly basis? Does that happen? What does that training look like? Just so that, you know, from my understanding, again, it was a misinterpretation of the court documents. So can you just walk us through what that process
Sure,
is?
this will be incorporated in their yearly training, and it's also has been added to training for the new recruits.
And when you talked about it went to the Civilian Review Board, correct?
Inspector General,
And then
yes.
what was the outcome?
Sustained.
What does that mean?
That means that they agreed that there was wrongdoing.
Say that one more time. I'm sorry, it was so hard to hear you.
That means that they agreed that there was wrongdoing.
Okay, and then what was the outcome of that?
They were given corrective counseling.
Okay.
Can you explain what corrective counseling is?
DCC would just be a verbal counseling given.
So there was no discipline given then?
A DCC is considered discipline. So yes, there was.
And I just ask that because, and not to take this out on you, Director, but it is extremely frustrating for me as a father, as someone who has dealt with family members who have had mental health and addiction issues, for some mistake like this that is so stupid for it to happen. And I want to be clear that I'm voting yes for KG, but the fact that the folks who are literally in charge of enforcing the law misinterpreted the law so badly that a child was gone missing for 7 months. And why I'm furious, because I literally sit in my bed and I cried the other day when a dispatch article of a 4th child in this community that was killed because of domestic violence situations. So I am sorry that you have to bear the brunt of this. I don't know where to place this frustration, and I want it to be on record that it is totally unacceptable. And saying that we had a conversation with someone and we trained them is just simply, in my opinion, not enough. And so, again, I want to thank our city attorney. I want to thank whoever got us to this point without divulging client attorney privilege that got us to this point. But when we're talking about, again, mistakes like this, forget even, at this point, I'm sorry to even say this, forget my fiduciary responsibility, but someone's life was at stake here. And so, yes, we're settling today, and to the family and the folks that came around the table to move us forward, but I hope and pray that KG and his family get the help that they need because of what he endured for those 7 months. And if we were to go to trial, we would absolutely lose. There's no doubt about it in my mind. And so that's why I will be voting yes today. But I am extremely frustrated. And it is not enough, in my opinion, that there was a conversation had, or that we are just now training officers on what basic legal documentation looks like. And so I apologize because this is not my normal temperature. But I just, as a father, could not sit here and let us just gloss past this. Totally unacceptable.
Councilmember Barosa de Padilla.
Thank you, Councilmember Bankston. I think especially what's challenging about this is that I think there are scars that this young man will have for life, and you can't put a price tag on anyone's life, and you can't put a price tag on anyone's trauma, and this is incredibly difficult, and this is a case where what makes this job so difficult is that by the time it gets to us, we're deciding on something and passing something that sometimes we have little to do with. And so I just think it's just so imperative for us to take this moment to pause, just because I think when people, as public servants, we're entrusted with people's lives and with their safety. And when we fail them, I'm not sure there's a way to make it better. I think there's a way to prevent it in the future. But I think these were my sentiments exactly, Councilmember Bankston. I think this was a hard one for me just because of, again, I think people trusted a system that just didn't work for them. And, I think that it just is another example of how we just need to ensure that we are intentional about everything that it is that we do, and that there needs to be consequences to folks' actions, even if it feels like it's just a mistake, because the responsibility that you're entrusted with is so much and so high. It's quite literally someone's life.
Councilmember Bankston, Councilmember Barosa de Padilla, appreciate the sentiment, and certainly, when we get these cases, especially in my office, and know that they're coming down the pike, my heart was breaking for KG and for his father and the family and all that were impacted by this. And it certainly is something that, again, as a father myself, knowing what that means to a family and knowing what it means to the children. And so these things never come easy for us. I know we have to take these briefings and deliberate over things that have happened a long time ago, but that the pain still continues today. And even though this is a lot of money, of course, the impact that could be, or it could have been had it gone to trial, would be much more significant. And certainly, therefore, I recommend approval this afternoon. So I move for adoption, or I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, De Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Weiss, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you very much. That's all I have this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll now proceed to the Public Utilities and Sustainability Committee, which Councilmember Weiss chairs.
Thank you, Council President. First, I have 2477-2025 to authorize the Director of the Department of Finance and Management to establish a contract with Murphy Tractor in Equipment Company Incorporated for the purchase and delivery of a backhoe loader and accessories for the Department of Public Utilities, and to authorize the expenditure of $126,985 from the Division of Water Reclamation Operating Fund, and to waive competitive bidding provisions of City Code. This contract will enable the Southerly Water Reclamation Plant to purchase a backhoe that will be used for maintenance projects around the facility. Let me pause there, see if any questions or comments from my colleagues. Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, De Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Weiss, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you. And last, I have ordinance 2546-2025 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to renew and increase a contract with Azteca Systems LLC for software licenses associated with the CityWorks Asset Management System, to waive competitive bidding of Columbus City Code, and to authorize the expenditure of $753,900 split between the electricity, water, sanitary sewer, and stormwater operating funds. This ordinance provides the necessary funding for the continuation of the CityWorks Asset Management System. This system increases efficiency, enables geographic information systems to empower the Department of Public Utilities to better track, maintain, and manage assets across the entire organization. This fund helps manage 1,150 licenses, 282 of which support the maintenance and inspection process for fire hydrants throughout the city. Let me stop there, see if any questions or comments from my colleagues. Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, De Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. That is all I have for my committee this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And finally, we have the Housing and Homeless and Building Committee, and I chair that. We have the first piece of legislation is Ordinance 2399. It's to authorize the Director of the Department of Development to enter into service contract with Minovate LLC in an amount up to $96,128 to provide for the continued use of Neighborly software, including support and training services and 5 additional user subscriptions, to authorize a transfer of $38,000 between object classes within the Division of Housing Stability, and to waive the competitive bidding requirements of Columbus City Codes Chapter 329, and to authorize the expenditure of $96,128. This legislation provides for the continued use of the Neighborly software and expand its use into the city's new Division of Housing Stability to assist tenant-facing evictions, also with housing instability, displacement, and at risk of homelessness. The waiver of competitive bidding is being requested because this is currently the only available hosted software that addresses all the needs of the Department of Development. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage. Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, De Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Thank you. And the last piece of legislation is Ordinance 2539-2025. It's to authorize the appropriation in the amount of up to $892,026.96. The transfer between object classes in the amount of up to $3,468.84, and the expenditure in an amount up to $1,100,000 of 2022 and 2023 Home Investment Partnership entitlement grant funds from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, and to authorize the Director of the Department of Development to enter into a commitment letter, loan agreement, promissory note, mortgage, and restrictive covenant with Habitat for Humanity Mid-Ohio to construct many single-family homes, with each address having its own set of loan documents. I want to invite up Jeremy Ball. He's the Chief Advancement and People Officer for Habitat for Humanity Mid-Ohio. I'm really proud to bring forward this legislation for $1.1 million with Habitat for Humanities. They're building homes right here in Central Ohio. This investment funds new homes for families earning between 30% and 80% of the median area income. That's roughly between $26,000 and $70-some thousand. All of these homes are being built in Linden on land originally purchased by the land bank. And now through this partnership, that land will become beautiful new homes for families right here in our city. What's special about this Habitat model is that it's a partnership. Homeowners don't just buy a house, they help build it. They work side by side with volunteers and neighbors to build these homes, at the same time develop pride in home ownership. Last week, I had the opportunity to meet one of these new neighbors, homeowners. Abdi is moving into his new home in Linden after years of living and working in Columbus. He was beaming, literally beaming with pride, talking about his new home. And I had to watch my feet as I was tracking mud through his new house. Habitat mentioned that he is so committed to this program that he went above and beyond in attending his own homeownership education classes and becoming an equipped and prepared homeowner. This is how we build stronger neighborhoods, through collaboration, compassion, and shared commitment to affordable housing. These investments mean more than bricks and mortar. They are giving children safe homes and families stability and wealth. So I want to thank Habitat for Humanity, the Land Bank for making this possible, Department of Development, Aaron Prosser, thank you for your leadership, for ensuring that Columbus continues to be a place where folks can call home. I want to turn the floor over to Jeremy.
Council President Hardin and members of City Council and their staff, thank you for your leadership and for your longstanding partnership with Habitat for Humanity Mid-Ohio. For more than 20 years, the City of Columbus has worked alongside us to expand access to homeownership and build stronger, more resilient neighborhoods. We are more than a construction company. We build quality homes, we underwrite mortgages, and we work with families as long-term partners. We also provide the education and support that help homeowners succeed. At our core, we're in the business of providing hope and opportunity and helping people lead better lives. This $1.1 million investment will help us build 11 new homes for families earning 30 to 80% of the area median income, with construction starting in our fiscal year 27. We will stretch every public dollar by combining it with donor contributions, volunteer labor, and in-kind materials. This approach has worked for more than 2 decades. Over $10 million in past home funding has enabled us to build neighborhoods that need it most, reducing vacancy, attracting additional investment, and strengthening long-term neighborhood health. The impact on families is real. In our most recent Family Impact Survey, nearly every homeowner reported a better quality of life, less stress, more safety, improved health, stronger confidence as parents. Many told us that their children are doing better in school simply because they finally have a stable home. Homeownership changes the trajectory of a family. Our homeowners say it best. They say, owning my home lifted a huge weight off my shoulders. My kids finally feel safe and settled. Everything changed. I never thought someone like me could own a home. Now I have something to pass on. When the city partners with Habitat, families don't just get a house, they get a fair chance. A chance to put down roots, to participate in their community, and to build something lasting. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for supporting Habitat. Thank you for coming out to the commencements and dedications and the times where we welcome and celebrate our new neighbors. And thank you for continuing to make that possible for the people of Columbus.
Thank you so much, Jeremy, especially for being here, but really for the work that you and Habitat for Humanity, Brandy, and all the volunteers, meeting the volunteers, some who have been volunteering with Habitat for 20, 25 years. It's really, really spectacular. We love this partnership. Are there any, Councilmember Rosa de Padilla.
I just want to say thank you. I have had the distinct honor of helping to build Habitat homes as an AmeriCorps member. And first of all, I mean, what more of a flex can you say than I built a house? But I'm just saying. I appreciated working alongside with homeowners and just, I think, the same sense of accomplishment that I had building this house, knowing that you're building the house that you will live in, and giving folks that opportunity is just, it's one of my favorite things, right? I mean, this is why I think I love service. I mean, giving back to people, being able to build something and see that you built it and giving people that path to home ownership is just a very special thing. And Habitat has been doing that for decades. And the way that they provide home ownership is just something special and something, it's an outlier when you think about quite literally building your home. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that and acknowledge all of your good work to also reaching out and modernizing the idea of Habitat and what it looks like today, right? Taking the idea of how you started and really expanding on that idea to include many more opportunities for folks in our community. So I just wanted to thank you for your work.
Thank you.
If there are no questions or comments, I'll move for passage. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, De Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed. Seeing no further business coming for council, is there a motion to adjourn? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, De Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
The meeting is adjourned. We have one additional Number 50 will now come to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Are there any additions or corrections to the journal? Hearing none, the journal is approved. We'll now go to the zoning committee. Councilmember Dorance chairs that committee, and all members serve on it. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. Before we begin tonight's zoning agenda, first a little bit of housekeeping. Will the clerk please read the numbers of legislation in tonight's committee that require waiver of second reading?
Ordinance 2684, 2694, 2660, 2693, 2695, 2696, 2701, and 2702-2025.
Thank you. I move to waive second reading on those items.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Thank you, Clerk. Now allow me to briefly explain our rules pertaining to speaking before council on rezonings and variances. We only hear a staff presentation for ordinance that have a disapproval from recommending body, or if we have a public speaker assigned to speak against an ordinance. We permit 3 speakers on each side of an ordinance, 3 proponents, 3 opponents. We ask those speakers to limit their remarks to 3 minutes per the standard rules of City Council. All speakers in the council variance, including city staff, area commissioners, applicants, and members of the public, will be sworn in before they give testimony. Representatives in the area commission are always able to speak on an ordinance and do not need to fill out a speaker slip, but we do ask you alert city staff of your intentions to speak at this committee hearing. We do have 3 public speakers signed up to speak on our agenda here tonight. On the advice of the city attorney's office, we'll now swear in city staff. Please stand and raise your right hand and be sworn in. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you have to give shall be the truth, nothing but the truth, that you shall answer under penalty of perjury? If so, please say I do. I do. Thank you. Please let the record reflect that Tim Dietrich from the Department of Building and Zoning Services, Christopher Laura from the Division of Planning, Daniel Bleschmidt from the Division of Traffic Management in the Department of Public Service, and Deputy Director for Housing Strategies, Aaron Prosser, from the Department of Development, have been sworn in. First, we have ordinance number 2288-2025 to rezone 2410 Demarest Road, being 14.07 plus acres located on the east side of Demarest Road, being 800 plus feet north of Black Pine Drive, from R Rural District to LAR1 Limited Apartment Residential District. This site consists of 2 parcels, each developed with a singular dwelling as a result of recent annexation from Jackson Township, and the requested rezoning will allow the site to be developed with a 264-unit apartment complex. The proposal is approved from city staff and the Development Commission, but a disapproval from the Westland Area Commission. Due to that disapproval, we'll now hear a staff presentation from city staff, starting with Mr. Dietrich. Mr. Dietrich, the floor is yours.
Chair Dorance, President Harden, members of council. The applicant requests the LAR1 Limited Apartment Residential District to allow for a multi-unit residential development consisting of 256 total units. North and south of the site are single-unit dwellings in the SR Semi-Residential District under the jurisdiction of Jackson Township. East of the site are single-unit dwellings in the LR2 Limited Residential District. West of the site is a religious facility in the SR Semi-Residential District, also under Jackson Township. Concurrent council variance CV 25-025 has been filed requesting a variance to increase the maximum garage height from 15 feet to 16 feet. The site is within the planning boundaries of the Westland Plan, which recommends low-density residential 1 to 2 units per acre land uses at this location. The site is also subject to early adoption of Columbus Citywide Planning Policies C2P2 design guidelines. The site is located within the boundaries of the Westland Area Commission, whose recommendation is for disapproval. The limitation text includes use restrictions, a maximum of 256 dwelling units, height restrictions, and includes a commitment to develop the site in accordance with the submitted site plan and building elevations. The requested LAR1 limited apartment residential district will allow the site to be redeveloped with an apartment complex with up to 256 dwelling units. While the proposal is inconsistent with the Westland Plan recommendation of low-density residential land uses at this location, staff recognizes existing medium-density residential developments southwest of the site, along with other apartment residential districts in the vicinity. The proposal's high level of consistency with C2P2 design guidelines, including buffering and screening of adjacent low-density residential uses, preservation of existing mature trees along the southern edge of the site, and activation of open space with walking paths as mitigating factors for support, and therefore we recommend approval. I have been asked to also additionally give you a quick timeline of this request. Z25-012 was filed with the Department of Building and Zoning Services on March 20th, 2025. The application was processed and forwarded to the Westland Area Commission the next day. The application was forwarded for City Department's review on March 21st, with the results of that review being sent out on March 28th to the applicant. The Westland Area Commission sent their recommendation form to city staff stating that on June 18th, 2025, the Area Commission had recommended disapproval of the rezoning request. The rezoning request was then heard on July 10th, 2025 by the Development Commission, and they received a recommendation of approval at that meeting. Finally, city staff prepared a zoning ordinance for Z25-012 and submitted it to the city clerk's office on August 29th, 2025. If you have any questions, feel free to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Dietrich. Questions from colleagues? Mr. Dietrich, could you talk a little bit about, so when a property is annexed into the city, how that sort of process works from what zoning district is then provided to that newly annexed parcel, and what sort of the land use or density is sort of resulted from that, just based on that process, considering we are dealing with a parcel that was recently annexed into the city?
Sure. The zoning code requires that all property annexed into the city of Columbus be given the R rural district. It's our most restrictive district. It only allows one single unit dwelling per 5 acres. So as the result of the annexation, this property has been zoned R rural district.
And again, that's not site specific. That is, anytime a parcel gets annexed, and that is just the automatic zoning districts that's provided and the automatic density recommendation that's provided.
Correct. That is a citywide stated zoning code requirement.
Thank you. Again, any questions for colleagues for Mr. Dietrich? Thank you. Next, we have Mr. Christopher Lohr from the Division of Planning.
Thank you, Chair Dorans, President Harden, and members of council. With regards to this application, planning is in full support. As mentioned, although the Westland Area Plan from 1994 recommends low-density residential at 1 to 2 units per acre, staff has noted that nearby developments are built at higher densities, with some nearby residential built at medium densities of approximately 10 to 16 units per acre. That's to the southwest of this site. Columbus Citywide Planning Policies, or C2P2, also notes that projects at higher densities may be supportable provided they include high level of site and building design, which is the case for this application. To that end, the site plan includes preservation of existing mature trees, activation of open space, the buffering of adjacent residential areas, as well as a community garden, each of which represent elements of a high-quality site design. The building designs are also consistent with C2P2. Thank you, and I can answer any other questions that you may have.
Any questions for Mr. Lohr from my colleagues? So, Mr. Lohr, just again to talk about that, so typically, and just to make sure that everyone's sort of working off the same information, so staff may support a higher level of density if the applicant complies with citywide planning. So basically, if an applicant's going to do more at a higher quality development, the staff will at times support that higher density recommendation based upon that applicant doing more on that site. Is it sort of a fair assessment?
Correct. So Columbus citywide planning policies includes that language, so that there is additional flexibility to account for those site designs and building designs that are of higher quality.
Thank you. Next, staff member we'll hear from the administration is Mr. Dan Bleshmidt from the Division of Traffic Management.
Thank you, Chair Dorns, President Harden, members of council. Based on the requirements of the City of Columbus Traffic Standards Code, this site was required to prepare a traffic access study. Demarest Road along the frontage of this site development is within the jurisdiction of the Franklin County Engineers Office. The Franklin County Engineers Office reviewed and approved the traffic access study that was required for this site development. The commitments defined in the traffic access study have been incorporated into the commitments within this proposed ordinance. Roadway widening to provide a southbound left turn lane at the site access point to Demarest Road will be required. The commitments in the ordinance also state that in lieu of constructing a northbound right turn lane, this site development shall be required to provide a fee in lieu of construction to the Franklin County Engineers Office to be applied to a future regional path project on Demarest Road. The limits of this project
Mr.
are...
Bleshman, can you move the mic a little bit closer? I'm sorry. I'm not sure if everyone else, but I'm having a hard time hearing. Yeah, thank you.
Sorry about that. The limits of this project are anticipated to be between Big Run Park in the City of Columbus and Southwest Boulevard in the City of Grove City, and is anticipated to be implemented with a future Central Ohio Transit Authority transit supportive infrastructure project. Also, this site development will be required to extend a pedestrian facility across its frontage and off-site to connect to the existing pedestrian network present south of this site at the intersection of Demarest Road and Black Pine Drive in the City of Grove City. Additionally, this site development is committed to providing a contribution of approximately $193,000 to the City of Columbus to be applied to regional roadway improvements in this area. In summary, in consideration that this development site will be mitigating the impact of its additional traffic by performing turn lane improvements, will be making contributions toward future infrastructure needs in this area, and will be installing additional off-site pedestrian infrastructure to connect this development to the existing sidewalk network. The Department of Public Service is in full support of this application. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions from council members? Mr. Bleshman, can you talk a little bit about just the difference between of a traffic access study compared to an impact study, and sort of where, like when an impact study would be required instead of a access study, which was done here?
Sure. So a traffic access study is focused on the access to the site and really looks at turn lane warrants, site distance, capacity of people to be able, vehicles to be able to get in and out of that access. Traffic impact study rather it expands the scope of the study to study off-site intersections. And that is defined in Chapter 4309 of the Columbus City Codes, which calls out specific trip generation thresholds whereby a traffic impact study would be required. So that section of code calls out either if there's 200 trips in a peak hour, so the highest hour of the day, either usually the afternoon or morning peak, or if there's more than 100 trips going to and going through an adjacent intersection. Those are two thresholds that we would apply that may require off-site study and potential mitigation improvements, potential contribution toward off-site intersections. So that trigger was not met with this particular application.
Okay. And one thing I've heard from residents, and this came up meeting with some of them earlier today, was that sort of a payment to the City of Columbus for additional sort of infrastructure improvements within that area. One question that I think a resident fairly had was, what's to say these dollars get spent that actually improves this area versus somewhere else? So sort of what is the process for how those funds are used, and typically what projects get supported with that? I know there's nothing specific on the table here today for this, but sort of generally how are those dollars sort of applied?
So generally, the text is written to be in this area. So I guess I would interpret that as being somewhere in the general neighborhood, somewhere in the general area commission area or community planning area, not just anywhere within the city of Columbus. It is not specifically assigned to a future project. However, there have been other sites that have contributed to a future project, at least more specifically, there has been contributions collected by the Department of Public Service for the intersection of Alki Road and Holt Road. And those, there may be a good chance that that would be assigned to that, but given that there may be other needs in this area, we did not want to be limiting on that being just for that one project.
Thank you. Any additional questions for traffic management at this time? Thank you, Mr. Bushman. Finally, we'll have Ms. Erin Prosser, who is our Deputy Director for Housing Strategies.
Thank you, Chair Dorans, President Harden, members of council. The proposed rezoning at 2410 Demarest Road in the Westland neighborhood supports the Columbus housing strategy by building new units in a high-demand area and expanding housing options with access to opportunity. The proposed housing meets 3 of the 4 pillars of the housing strategy. First is build. The average home values in this zip code rose 52.5% from 2020 to 2025. Home prices are 33% higher here than in the rest of the city of Columbus, and require a household income of more than $130,000 in order to afford an average home, which is twice the median household income in the city. This indicates a high-demand area in need of additional housing to slow the growth in housing cost. Similarly, median monthly housing cost for renter-occupied units is $2,025 a month, 62% higher in this census tract compared to the average housing cost for families in the city of Columbus. According to a recent study by Moody's Analytics, the area surrounding this proposal is substantially undersupplied with housing, and particularly rental housing, when comparing the vacancy rates in this census tract with the city as a whole. The second pillar it meets is preserve. With scarcity in high opportunity areas comes the threat of displacement of existing residents, but that precarity is not always evident. In an area that is high in demand but low in available housing, families will often compromise stability in order to remain in the neighborhood. Adding housing options will slow the rising prices and stabilize the existing neighbors. Nearly 16% of the households in this census tract pay more than 30% of their income on their housing, indicating families are willing to exceed the housing cost burden to access this area, which creates instability for these families, compromising their ability to remain in the neighborhood. And it is not just renters who are cost burdened in this census tract. 16.8% of owner-occupied families are paying more than 30% of their income to stay in their home, and 2/3 of those families have a household income of more than $50,000 a year. Finally, this proposal meets the include pillar of the Columbus housing strategy. The proposed project is located within an opportunity-rich area with increasing investment in jobs, amenities, and accessibility to transit and education. This project will increase the diversity of housing available in the area. Today, 96.4% of the housing units in the census tract are one-unit structures, and 88.7% of the units are owner-occupied, compared to 55.7% in the city of Columbus. The household income of renters in the census tract is higher than the household income of the homeowners, indicating this is an area of choice for renters and therefore confirming the need for additional options in the area. While housing scarcity will drive up housing prices throughout the region, in these locations with high access to jobs, education, services, and amenities, we expect to see accelerated housing price increases as the market responds. Therefore, adding new housing in these neighborhoods will be critical to ensuring housing stability of the current residents as well as continued access for new families. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions by council colleagues for Ms. Prosser? Seeing none, I will invite the applicant's representative for a presentation, Mr. Jeff Brown.
Good evening. I'm Jeffrey L. Brown, attorney with Smith & Hale, President Harden, Zoning Chair Dorn, fellow council members. The proposal in front of you tonight is another attempt to create affordable housing and meet the growing need that the city has. We have worked in this area. We've done several other zonings that you have reviewed and approved to provide additional housing opportunities. And in this particular case, if we look at the site plan, we kind of pride ourselves in terms of the site plan because before we do anything, we look at the surrounding properties and what is our relationship with our neighbors. So just kind of taking you around the map, if you look at the left side of that where we have our entrance, we have our clubhouse out front, our pool behind that. As you move your way around there, we have setbacks, we have fencing, we have landscaping. And one of the property owners there that comes out to Demarest, he is actually selling the back part of his property as part of this development. So one of the sellers here is staying in the community. He is our neighbor. He is going to be at the front door there. When you get to the north end, those are township homes. They did not want to have that street connection or driveway connection made, and so we agreed that we would have a gate there and everything, and we've talked with the Township Fire Department so that they and Columbus Fire will still have access and everything. But if you look there, we did double row of 8-foot-tall pines. We also looked at existing trees that were major, and we incorporated them into this project. Again, we took the fence, which we normally would put along the property line, and we moved that interior. So what you get there are existing trees that are being maintained. You're getting a double row of 8-foot-tall pines along there. The east side, what we were able to do there, again, is landscaping, the fencing, and just from a layout, what we have closest there are one-story garages. And we even put dormers on the backs of those to give them a little more architectural detail. Southeast corner, that's where the water flows, so we've got a retention pond there. So you can see the relationship with those homes and what we've done there. And also, importantly, the planner talked about activating that area. If you will see, there's a walking path around that pond. There's interconnectivity within our sidewalk system with all our buildings. We've got a dog park. We've got community gardens. And so when we look at this, we try to bring our buildings interior. The ends of our buildings, which you see that faces to the north, we have no windows on those ends. So when you look at that to the north, you've got ends of the buildings. To the east, you can see the distance back from the property line before you even get to our buildings. The south, you can see the landscaping and everything else that we've done here. The traffic's been reviewed. We meet the requirements, and we went above that because no matter where we are in the city of Columbus, we hear concerns about traffic. And how do you handle the traffic? You know, ironically, we haven't put a single car out on the road system, so we're not generating that traffic. It's all the existing people. We look at, as we're helping to solve the problem, and as the traffic engineer pointed out, we're making a $193,000 contribution that was not requested of us, but and trying to be a good neighbor and address that issue, we have made that contribution. So, affordability, we will participate in the CRA. 30% of these units will meet the 80% of the AMI. So I think we're trying to do what we can, and Joe Thomas, who works for Metro, does a lot of individual meetings with neighbors, and we did this on this site. Obviously, we weren't able to come to a resolution because they're still in disapproval, but we had an additional meeting that Zoning Chair Dorans arranged for this morning, and the amendment that has been submitted to City Council takes the building number 1. Does this work? Oh, does this? Well, anyway, the building that's out by the pool that you see, one of the neighbors who will be here and speaking, and we will take that building and make that building a 2-story building, even though our product is a 3-story, and we do that efficiently, and that allows us to provide a rent structure that becomes affordable. And again, in another effort to try to do something positive, the amendment that's been submitted shows that as a 2-story building, and we also have the architectural elevations for that building. So we're providing more housing. We've answered the traffic issue in terms of what is required us by the city. We've actually gone above what is required in terms of the contribution. And so we think this is an appropriate location. We think this is a very good site plan. The Development Commission, on a night where the zoning right in front of us was a multifamily, that got tabled. Our proposal got approved for nothing. And there were compliments there in terms about our site layout. So when you look at what we try to do, we try to be as respectful as we can of our neighbors in terms of how we lay our buildings out and how we do the buffering. It's just not setback, it's landscaping, it's fencing. That becomes all part of our overall product that we provide for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Questions from council members for the applicant's representative? Seeing none. Jeff, I'll invite you back up after public speakers. Next speaker coming for council is Mr. Mike McKay, the zoning chair for the Westland Area Commission. Welcome back to council, sir.
Good evening, President Hardin, members of council. Thank you. I'm Mike McKay. I'm the chairman of the zoning committee for the Westland Area Commission. Just want to come tonight and kind of give you our perspective on this project. I've been on the Westland Area Commission for 30 years. I've been chairman of the zoning committee for the past 24. We've seen a lot of growth in the area over that time and a lot of development. Things have changed a lot. And so we're not opposed to development. We're not opposed to growth. And, even in the last couple of years, last 2 years, we've approved more than 1,000 units, multifamily units for Metro. So it's not even this product. I mean, we're supportive of the product. We have some major concerns and serious reservations about this particular project, this proposal. Generally it comes down, our concerns generally always come down to density and traffic. I mean, it's all related and it's all the same thing. Talked about the Westland Area Plan. Yes, it's dated 1994. That calls for 1 to 2 units an acre on the site. This project is 18.76 units an acre, so we're pushing towards 19. I think you're going to hear from some of the neighbors tonight, and I suspect that they're going to talk about some of the other projects that are happening along Demarest Road here, which is a 2-lane road, and the access to get to, one of the major concerns we had. And so when we had 3 zoning committee hearings on this project, which is unheard of, frankly, for a lot of what we do. I mean, we handle these generally one meeting. So we came back, and every meeting we had 50 to 75 neighbors at every meeting. And, we generally heard their comments once, and then we hear some new things another time. But to their credit, Metro came back and they made some adjustments. They moved the pool and they reoriented the buildings to, away from sight line into the houses, preserve the trees and all that sort of stuff. The one thing that didn't change was the density, right? And the density remained the same. And there's a lot of other apartment developments that are being developed along Demarest Road. And you'll hear that as you head north to Demarest, on Demarest Road, the easiest access to get on 270 from this site is to head north to Alkire, go through a roundabout, a single-lane roundabout, and head west on Alkire to Holt Road, Holt to Georgesville, and then you swing left or swing right and get on 270. It's the volume of traffic that you're going to be adding with this development, with all the other rezonings, apartments that are going in on Demarest Road. It's not going to be workable. The other concern we had was the traffic impact study was conducted in September of 23. That was sort of the tail end of COVID. Most people were still working from home at that point. I think if you conducted that traffic study today, when most people are back, I know, I work for the state of Ohio, we weren't called back until later in 24. I think you'd have a different result for traffic today on that road than you did 2.5 years ago. So I know that, CP2P2 allows you to, if there are certain conditions that are met, you can go ahead and approve this. All due respect to the staff and everything on this project, I respectfully disagree. I think our commission respectfully disagrees with with their recommendation on this particular project. We believe it's too intensive of a project for this particular site. Not saying there shouldn't be anything there, maybe something less. I think that if not 1 to 2 units an acre, I don't think the answer is 19 units an acre either. I think it's probably something in between. So just wanted to share my concerns with you and our concerns as a commission with you tonight. So.
Thank you, Commissioner. As somebody who's only been the zoning chair for 3 years, I can't imagine having done this for 22. So thank you for being here tonight to certainly share your expertise. Councilmember Brosa de Padilla, I know, has a question.
I have 2 questions, actually. Chair, I think the first one might be a question for you. And I think I heard this correctly. The area plan was created in 1994?
Correct.
When do we update those? Because things have been a little different from 1994 to today.
Certainly, and there has been a number of different, sort of reviews over time. I think one of the things that the city has historically done is sort of area plans that are very area focused rather than looking more comprehensively around the city. And as we think about, when Zoning Chair McKay talks about the amount of things that they have seen come through, these are really piecemeal, right? And I think that, I certainly understand the frustrations of the commission and the residents to say, hey, you can only look, we need to look at everything, not just this in particular zoning, which is difficult to do because we're legislatively being asked to act on one individual thing in front of us. And I think because of that lack of sort of citywide planning or updating those plans, that does create some difficulties about what does 2025 look like compared to 1994 or 2035 or 2055, right? But one of the things that is happening right now is the city is actually looking at making significant changes to how these area plans have happened in the past. And I do want to allow Chris Lohr from the Division of Planning to talk a little bit about how we would get in a better position, because again, I do think this is really difficult when you talk about what is an appropriate density today versus what it may have been in 1994 and what it may be in the future. And I think it's difficult for us all to sit here and think that through. I think what I always make the joke when we talk about traffic, I'm not a traffic engineer. I'm also not a planner either, which is why, I want to have Chris Lohr from our Division of Planning talk a little bit about sort of what that approach is moving forward.
Thank you, Chair Dorans. Right now, as part of the Zone In initiative, Phase 2, the second phase that's covering around 40% of the city, we're updating the land use policy for those areas in advance of bringing the Zone In efforts, the actual code update in next year. So that's what we've been doing this summer, is engaging on 40% of the city. This is not one of those areas. This is one of those areas we expect to bring updated land use policy and engage with the community on towards the end of next year, in the spring, summer, fall winter timeframe for those Phase 3 residential type areas and areas that are outside of the city that could be annexed, like this one. So in some areas, we don't have land use guidance for areas that are not in the city. In other areas, we do. The idea is that we'll have land use guidance that's up to date and citywide, and really covers a lot of the patchwork of township that's potentially annexable in the future. And so the goal would be to come back out to Westland for sites like this throughout their community and say what makes sense for the future here and in these other areas.
Thank you. I just wanted to uplift that, because I think that that's a challenge that we face many times. I mean, I was 17 and a senior in high school in 1994. I'm only 25 today, but obviously the city is very different than it was. And so I think as conditions change, I think it's just hard to look back at data that's, that old, to then, compare it to where we are and what capacity we might have in terms of density and other things. So that's part of the reason I wanted to uplift that. Also, my second question, and I don't know if you wanted to say something to that. Okay. My second question is, there was apparently an amendment that was submitted around removing one of the, not making a 3-level, but a 2-level. Where did that, is that does that meet any of the concerns of the community, or does that?
Was that, just to clarify, was that on an actual building, or was that a clubhouse, or what are we talking about?
Building 1.
Yeah.
This is the building right on the corner, the closest one right there. Building 1. That one. We would make that 2-story instead of 3-story.
Yeah. How many units is it reduced if you?
It would be 8.
I mean, it's a start. I think it's, you know, it's a minimal impact, frankly, overall.
Okay, I was just wondering if the amendment was made, if that was based upon conversations or other concerns that were met, whether it, I'm not sure if it was a reduction in units or if it was, if it met the height because it was at the entrance, or if there was some other sort of
So,
compromise.
Councilmember, I think we'll get to this with some of the public comment
Okay,
based
perfect.
upon one of the meetings we had today on this, but yeah.
Got it, thank you.
Any other questions for Commissioner? Councilmember Green?
Actually, it's for the department. Can we?
Anything else?
I'm just going to say, Councilmember Chairman, just thank you. Your service is needed, felt, and appreciated. I'll speak more after we have more conversation, but I think that you take this job, I know that you take this job very seriously and are not anti-housing. And so I just appreciate your engagement and encourage, continue. We need you to stay there and keep working with this, so thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Commissioner, I appreciate it. Thank you. We received 21 pieces of written testimony on this piece of legislation. Those were provided to all the offices. As I mentioned earlier, we do have 3 public speaker slips filled out to speak against the ordinance tonight. So I'm going to call those in the order that they were received. So, and if I get anyone's name wrong, I apologize, and feel free to correct me when you're at the podium. But the first speaker we have is Brad Oyer. Mr. Oyer, welcome back to council.
So before I start, don't start the clock yet. There's one section of my speech that just got turned into a lie, so we're going to see how that goes. We'll play, figure out which one that is. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Good evening, council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and a special thank you to Chair Dorans for going over and above today. We appreciate it. My name is Brad Oyer, and my home is adjacent to the property we are discussing tonight. Our coalition of bordering neighborhoods has found serious flaws in this proposal that demand closer scrutiny. Metro Development only builds 3-story walk-up apartments, so they said 6 hours ago. And they think that this type of housing can just go anywhere. Dozens of citizens and the 700 people who have signed our petition disagree. The property in question is surrounded by well-established low and medium-density single-family homes. Robin Estates, adjacent to the north, is a 3 dwelling units per acre neighborhood. Big Run Ridge, adjacent to the east, is 4. The comparison neighborhood quoted in the staff review to the southwest is actually 5, if you go back and look at the original zoning request and how the property is laid out. And Pine Grove to the south, which is in Grove City, is also 5. You are being asked to allow 18.76, obviously different now, dwelling units to be built in the middle of these neighborhoods, an increase of at least 275%. Still a valid number. That makes no sense. Zoning districts R1, 2, 3, PUD 2, 4, 6, heck, RF2 would be seamlessly inserted in this area, but LAR1 is drastic. I mean, you guys talk about wanting to do some revamping. Let's do some real revamping, not this. As I have already described, this project makes no sense mathematically, but also makes no sense architecturally. Please note the Westland Area Commission's early adoption of C2P2 is for design guidelines only, which we discussed is not land usage. We appreciate C2P2's design guidelines. In fact, we would like the city to hold this project to those guidelines. 3-story buildings are in conflict with C2P2's requirement for, quote, building height transitions to create a scale and massing that is appropriate based on the surrounding uses. Metro has not included adequate height transitions between their established neighbors and their tallest proposed structures, and unlike their neighbors, all their dwelling units look the same, with a negligible difference. If the city isn't going to hold developers to the city standards, who will? The area residents strongly agree with the Westland Area Commission's rejection of this project. The commission cited several critical flaws, including traffic issues caused by unchecked development in the area, the single-lane roundabout on the way to the only nearby highway entrance, and the proposed dramatic density mismatch. The commission believes low to medium density housing should be built here, and the neighbors agree. These two landowners have had this land for more than 30 years. We understand their desire to monetize these assets, and we do not want to belabor that process. We are also aware of local housing needs, and we are not so naive to fight all development. We are confident that if you deny this proposal tonight, these landowners will find a developer able to build proper housing in this area, on this land. Your constituents in this area desire responsible development of Demarest Road. We want to say yes to the right fit, but we need you to hear us tonight and say no to this particular application. Now, at this time, I'd like to answer your questions, because 3 minutes is not nearly enough time.
Questions from council members?
You said appropriate housing. What do you consider appropriate housing?
Well, in terms of, so when I was in here before, listening to previous presentations, Habitat for Humanity was in here, and they were talking about building houses and the value of home ownership and the anchoring of people who have a home and the generational wealth that comes from homes, and being able to say, I saved up a down payment, whether it's 3%, 20%, FHA, veterans, whatever it is. That type of housing, to me, would be considered the pinnacle of housing. I am able to establish myself in a community, and I will fight for that community, and I will stand up and come to city council scared out of my wits to talk on behalf of that community. At the same time, I lived in rental in apartments when I was in college, in rental, lived in my parents' basement for 2 years before getting a grown-up job. I think that appropriate housing is housing that people can get into and thrive in. I don't think that $2,000 a month rent in an area where people want to move into the homes. I don't make $193,000 a year, or whatever that number was, I'm sorry. $130,000 a year. I'm a school teacher with a stay-at-home mom who homeschools her kids, and I live adjacent to this property. So appropriate, in my humble opinion, would be property that blends into the neighborhood and joins the fabric of what is already there.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments, council members? Thank you, Mr. Royer.
Thank you very much.
Next speaker to come for council is Ms. Caitlin Garbrand. Welcome back to council.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Katie. I am part of the Coalition of Neighborhoods for the Preservation of Demarest Road, here this evening representing hundreds of neighbors who believe in responsible growth, who are deeply alarmed by this Metro proposal and the way our voices have been dismissed, all while Metro continues to receive the green light and rapidly oversaturate our community. I think that you should know when we spoke to the Development Commission about the inappropriate three-story buildings Metro plans to cram in the heart of our 1- and 2-story homes, the additional 500 cars that this development will add over the additional 300 cars that will come from the yet-to-open Hudson Crossing apartments down the street, all slated for a half-mile stretch of a 2-lane Demarest Road, bottlenecked by a Route 270 overpass bridge and passing through a single-lane roundabout, none of which can be modified. The honorable members of the Development Commission were on their cell phones, shuffling their papers, and completely ignoring the very well-prepared, informed, and respectful citizens speaking in front of them. The voices of citizens fell on deaf ears. It was most obvious the commission had already made up their minds, and nothing we could do or say would sway their decision, even though we are the ones who live and drive on Demarest Road every day. We know what Demarest Road is like during the school year when the buses are traveling up and down the road, stopping, causing backups into turn lanes, neighborhood, and the godforsaken roundabout. We experience the Walmart distribution semi-trucks lost on a road they shouldn't be on, that's not constructed for them, and we can all recognize how much busier Demarest has become with the 11 developments added to the area. At the Westland Area Commission, we saw Metro Development's traffic study, and our team blew a hole in it with facts. We saw that the foundation of the study was from 2023 data during COVID, a time when everyone knows there were far fewer cars on the road due to many still working from home. That is a flawed study. So Metro did another study, this time while their detour signs were up, with school not in session over a holiday weekend, a study that proved even less accurate. They are pros at misleading you and the other governing bodies. We understand that Columbus needs more housing. We get it. But this proposal, it is neither smart nor sustainable and threatens the quality of life of people who live here. Shouldn't the process include a study of an area and the site to make sure that what is being proposed is even remotely appropriate? Shouldn't the voice of the people who live here be listened to and respected? Why don't you approve a developer who builds 2-story apartments, since Metro only builds 3-story ones? 2-story buildings are far more appropriate in the middle of a neighborhood. 2-story buildings would at least reduce the number of cars by 1/3 and maybe make using the land slightly less dangerous and a blatant overdevelopment. Can I finish?
Yep.
I urge you to listen to those most affected. Our coalition launched a petition earlier this year, gaining over 700 signatures in opposition to this proposal. This support and the petition comments provided via email align with the Westland Area Commission's vote, the one that the Development Commission ignored. Please don't let this evening just be a formality where we are speaking in front of you just so you can go ahead and check off a box and approve the Metro Development Plan anyway, like the Development Commission did. If this all just gets pushed through and you move on to the next project, then the influence of the corporation is what matters. The voice of the people matters not, and this process is broken. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from council members?
Just one clarifying question. I'm sorry, I should have asked Mr. Oyer this as well. What is your address or relation to this property?
I am at 2296 Christie Lane, so my road will dead end to where the emergency exit gate will go.
Got it. And is that in the township or in the city of Columbus?
Township.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions from council members? Seeing none, thank you. I'll invite our last public speaker, Mr. Gavin Price Fuller. Welcome back to council.
Good evening. Thank you for having me tonight. Chair Dorans, President Hardin, and Council. My name is Gavin Price Fuller, and I serve as chair of the Coalition for the Preservation of Demarest Road. My family's home is directly front and center to the proposed development, and our property would be surrounded on 2 full sides if this proposal carries forward. Let me be clear. We as a coalition support responsible development. But responsible development means integrating new buildings with existing neighborhoods, not overwhelming them. Unfortunately, Metro's current plan does exactly that. It adds 11 3-story buildings, literal walls, in the center of a community made up of 1- and 2-story single-family homes. Yes, Metro has included fencing and trees, and that is a start. But screening and facing the property nicely does nothing to address our core concerns. A lack of appropriate transition from low-density homes to high-density units, a dramatic increase in traffic in an already burdened area, and growing pressure on aging local infrastructure. One project does not tell the whole story, but 4 in the same small neighborhood certainly do. In just a 1-mile radius, Metro is pursuing 4 large developments. The scale and density of these projects in culmination is not only inappropriate, it is reckless. We understand Columbus needs housing, and we understand that this proposal checks certain boxes in the C2P2 guidelines. But what it fails to do is respect the existing community. We are asking for very reasonable compromises. A 2-story height transition consistent with the surrounding 1- and 2-story homes, a common compromise for developers, yet Metro refuses. A traffic impact study to ensure our small roadways can bear this burden and to uncover real infrastructure needs. And clear accountability so that developers, not taxpayers, fund the necessary infrastructure upgrades due to the new developer densities. Metro has made it clear they only build one product, but compromise is key here. The surrounding homeowners will undoubtedly have to make many compromises to accommodate this development. If Metro's product cannot adapt to the community it enters, if Metro can't make compromises of their own, then perhaps that product does not belong here. C2P2 cannot be a developer's golden ticket to bypass zoning standards and build at excessive scales and densities. As long as the property is well-faced, if this proposal must go forward, it must be done responsibly with proper planning and scale. Anything less is a betrayal of the long-term residents and families who call this neighborhood home. And I thank you all for your time in considering our community's voice in this matter tonight.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from council members?
Again, just same question, just to clarify.
2400 Demarest Road, I'm directly front and center to the proposed property. If the property goes forward, my property will be surrounded on 2 full sides.
Got it. And again, are you in the township's portion?
I am township,
okay.
yep.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So as is standard, after we have public speakers, we invite the applicant's representative to provide any additional comments based upon those comments.
Could I ask one more question real quick?
Yeah.
To the gentleman from the planning department? Could you explain C2P2 and what the purpose of that is? And is that something that is ultimately going to go away when there's the city-wide land use plan? Is it kind of an in-between?
Columbus citywide planning policies was adopted by council in 2018 as a framework for planning throughout the city, with the idea that we would continue our neighborhood by neighborhood land use planning effort. Out of that came 4 land use plans, and multiple communities, including this one, decided to pursue early adoption, which allowed them access to up-to-date design guidelines. So that allowed them to keep their plan for the time being while still having access to more modern design guidelines. That process is changing as we pursue Zone In. We're going to have a new growth strategy that would have a citywide land use plan with, so taking 200 land use categories throughout the city, 40 different plans, and finally having for the first time one Columbus land use plan that has consistent terminology and land use classifications. That engagement is ongoing. We have phase 1 Zone In, phase 2 Zone In. That's what's happening now. We'll continue that into 2026 with the 3rd phase. So that's the kind of the history of Columbus citywide planning policy.
Thank you for that explanation.
Of course.
Any other questions for the departments from council members before I invite the applicant's representative back?
I do.
Councilmember Green?
You guys talked about the Zone In and Phase 3 and coming sometime at the end of next year and dealing with the land use and the overlay there. But what I'm hearing both tonight and then from the commission and neighbors that I've met with about this and other projects is infrastructure, and mostly transit infrastructure, which normally, I don't, I think a lot of times we have things that we can do, but I live in this area. I almost bought a house on Demarest Road. It was the saddest loss of my life, not getting that house. But I understand the issues, the transit issues along this particular corridor very intimately. And so I want to get a sense from you about beyond just updating the land use plan, what are we doing, especially in an area where on any given, 100 yards, you flip from county to township to city jurisdiction. What efforts are underway for us to do the work of addressing issues? Because there's a lot of greenfield areas out there, and the reality is that those areas are going to see a lot of growth. And I'm not here to oppose housing projects in the middle of a housing crisis, but we also have a real challenge with this. Not only is this a one-lane road, I mean, it's curvy, you can't see around these bends, these winds in this road. So how are we looking at that? And I don't know, I think, I know public service is here too, but.
Yeah, so land use planning is intimately tied to the zoning actions, and zoning by its very nature, we have public service here to represent whether and how those transportation infrastructure improvements happen as zoning actions happen. As we do our continued land use planning engagement in 2026 with that phase 3, that includes planning for some of those township areas that may or may not come into the city. If they do decide to come to the city, as is the case here, then we would have a land use recommendation that's up to date that we will be able to use to guide some of our transit-oriented development, the link us strategies. Tying all those together, they'd be able to access a citywide land use plan for the first time and see where the city is prioritizing density, mixed-use development, those types of things. And CODA works with those land use plans. It's kind of chicken and the egg. Density needs transit, transit needs density, and so they go back and forth. So for the first time, we'd be able to have a land use plan that is sensible throughout the city, throughout the region.
Respectfully, I mean, this is a one, 2-lane, very windy, curvy. This isn't a high-density corridor that I imagine a CODA bus driving down, at a regular interval. In fact, I don't even know that it runs that far out right now, full stop. So we have an entire community of people that have never been accustomed to the, using public transit. So are you saying that, all of the households along Demarest that are all mostly township would have to annex themselves into the city in order for that to be part of our planning and how we're looking at that infrastructure, or?
Not necessarily. From a land use perspective, we would have land use recommendations for those township sites if they were to come into the city. If they remain in the township, they would have their existing township zoning. They would continue as they currently do. If they came into the city, that's when those land use recommendations would really kick into play. At that time, that's when the city becomes involved with things like the standards around installing new sidewalks, shared use paths. They can start to talk about, is transit appropriate if the densities start increasing on Demarest? Is the roadway going to be widened to support those kinds of things?
And council member, I think, Mr. Blushman, if you want to answer just in terms of from a public service infrastructure, because we do have at our last council meeting, we talked about this where we've actually partnered with townships when we do have the continuous lanes that sometimes we know some of our municipalities can't do some of the roadway infrastructure on their own. And so we will partner with them to create, whatever solutions there might be. But I think just from public service, if we could have Mr. Blushman answer your question more specifically about the roadway itself.
Yeah, and I guess that is my question. Thank you, Councilmember, for adding that context. Because yes, that's my question. Are we talking to the township? Are we looking at infrastructure updates? Because I want to be very clear. I think this is a good project. When I'm a single mom, I think about the things that if I had to move, where I would want to be, in an area that's surrounded by mature trees, that has a pool, that has a clubhouse. This has things that working families want and need. And I don't know necessarily that the developer should be punished for the existing infrastructure challenges that are here. I think this is a challenge that we have to solve, and we know there's going to be more development. So are those conversations happening now related to infrastructure and how we can partner with the township? And if they are, then what do those plans look like? And if they're not, can we start them tomorrow?
Sure, and I guess further answer that, there are coordination that happens between the county and the city on projects. I guess that is kind of a given on how that works. But in general, as far as this site is going to help move things forward and in way of contributing, they're making a commitment toward infrastructure. Now, that is, it's a balancing act. It's a balancing act between how much we push, and put on the front end for the developments and what would ultimately be a more kind of a legacy responsibility that's taken on by the larger institution of the city, the county, and so on. So so each one of these applications is putting us on notice as far as public service, and we are understanding that there are some infrastructure challenges out there that we need to be starting to plan for, and the funding that is being supplied by some of these developments is a small step, understanding that there needs to be more steps going in that direction. So we're really at the beginning of that discussion on, for example, at Alkire and Holt Road, there's some funds that have been collected, and there's been discussions within the Department of Public Service related to how can we start to move a project forward that would be designed and constructed to that intersection. So that doesn't happen overnight. It takes planning and design and then implementation. So, but at this time, the funds that some of these development sites can provide, when we collate those and put those together, often those can help with the planning, the design, the right-of-way acquisition potentially, then to help us further find other funding sources between the agencies to move projects forward. So that's, there's likely some work to be done here, but that's where things are at this point in this general area.
So, Mr. Bushman, I'm going to dumb this down, hopefully quite a bit, which shouldn't be too hard for me to do. Because I know we've got a lot of residents that this is probably the first time that they have engaged on a zoning matter in their community, and there's been, certainly as Commissioner McKay mentioned, there's been a lot of development pressure within that area. So for folks that, have engaged on this, I just want to sort of maybe break this down a little bit easier. I mean, if an area of the city has very little development happening within it, that is very unlikely to receive city capital budget or other types of funding to improve transportation infrastructure there, right? So we're unlikely to build more lanes, we're unlikely to put in stoplights, we're unlikely to do more within those areas, simply because there's not a lot of growth there, right? Now, we would do standard maintenance, we're filling potholes, we're doing those kind of things, but if an area of the city is not growing, there's not a lot of development there, that's unlikely to be at the top of our list to say, hey, we need to direct more city or other types of investment in the transportation infrastructure, correct?
I would agree with that assessment, yes.
Now, if an area such as this is having more development happening, to your point you made a moment ago from it being identified from Department of Public Service from sort of, hey, identify this is a key area that is growing, that is more likely as we're looking at capital budgets and saying, where do we improve, where do we put dollars to improve an area's transportation infrastructure, it's more likely to go to that kind of area, correct?
Correct.
And I think very recently, from a council standpoint, we had several difficult zonings that were on McNaughton Road. That sort of one of those situations where, again, you saw more and more development pressure, more and more activity from building new housing within that area. And within a year or two, there was actual, shovels in the ground to actually improve that transportation infrastructure in that area. From my view, from a council standpoint, this is something that when we talk about some of the public speakers saying, I want to hold, people within the city accountable for what the consequences of development are or aren't, that's a really fair point, and one that I think this council has historically taken very seriously, specifically within that, say, McNaughton example, where we actually voted down projects within that time frame because, again, they didn't fit because we did not have the planned investment that was there. I think we're starting to get the point, particularly with this one, where it's very, very clear that, again, this is an area of the city that is rapidly growing, and one in which we're thinking about what improvements need to be made, to Councilmember Green's point. This is an area that is ripe for that. So again, we can view one piece of legislation in isolation, but I also think, to Commissioner McKay's point, this council is clearly on notice that there are things that need to be done within this area to help to mitigate development pressures. Because again, in a growing city, that is happening literally everywhere, right? The entire city is growing at a rapid pace. So where do we put those dollars and where do we put them sooner? Certainly areas that, again, I think become on notice to this body that we need to work with folks in the Department of Public Service to really, put our money where our mouth is here. And I think that's something that this body has shown in the past that we're ready and willing to do. But again, viewed in isolation, it's sometimes difficult for that to happen. But again, I just want to sort of break it down, sort of how these things get sort of identified for additional sort of thought process around infrastructure spending in the future.
Thank you,
Councilmember?
Chair Dorans. Thank you. Look at you. I should give you A+ as the Chair of Public Service and Transportation on that explanation. I also want to just, Councilmember Green, I think also to your point, I mean, with the Franklin County engineer, they also will look at congested areas and sometimes come to us as well, right? So I think to Mr. Blushman's point around, there is a concerted coordinated effort of looking at areas where we see problem spots that we can come together to bring resources to then address some of those issues. I also just want to point out, because I think it was mentioned before in some of the testimony of part of any zoning or development that goes, I should say any zoning that, or development, sorry, that goes in, there's two strategies that we have put in to ensure that we're meeting some of the needs that we have as a city. One is backfilling sidewalks, so requiring developers to build sidewalks in places where some folks think that sidewalks going nowhere. It's our strategy to ensure that as development continues to come in, sidewalks come in. Another thing is traffic access study. Putting in those lanes is not, we don't think that that's the fix, but we know that access, that will create some challenges. And so putting in additional lanes or a stoplight or whatever the remedy might be because of the development is part of that fix until we get the longer term fix, right? So I wanted to just point that out because by no means is that adding those lanes, saying that's going to fix all the problems along Demarest Road or that's going to fix all the problems in the general vicinity. We understand that that's not part of it, but we understand that that is going to alleviate some of the stress, at least for the interim, as those longer-term solutions come in. So.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember. Any other questions or comments for the departments before I allow the applicant's representative to come back? Mr. Brown.
Every time I get a new case with Metro, we try to figure out the best way to make everybody happy. I am much more comfortable sitting on the back bench and saying thank you than having to come up to the podium. We, as the area commission rep said, very unusual. We had 3 zoning meetings on this project. Joe Thomas had multiple individual meetings with adjacent neighbors to try to work through the issues. This site plan is a better site plan than we started with. We've got better buffering, we've got better setbacks in terms of what we're doing, and we try to make everybody happy. Sometimes we're unsuccessful. But when you look at this site plan, it's a good site plan. It meets the city's need of more units. You have the staff approval, you have a unanimous vote from the Development Commission in terms of this site. We think this is an appropriate location. We've gone beyond the traffic requirements. Again, we cannot solve Demarest Road. We can't solve Holt Road by ourselves. But we can make contributions to get the ball rolling. And we do that both from a traffic standpoint and from a pedestrian standpoint. When the council member was talking about you have sidewalks, but they don't go anywhere. But if you put the first one in, then the next one connects up. The city has asked us to extend our sidewalk further to the south to a subdivision south of us to make that connection. Now, does that really go anywhere? No, but if you make the connection now, then you can build on it. And there's always a transition area when you're dealing with the township and the city of Columbus. The city of Columbus has made it very clear that they want more housing units. And this proposal meets that need.
Mr. Brown, I want to talk about the reduction in height from Building 1. You and I met with some residents this morning, and a particular point of that conversation was around the transition from the single-family housing to this development. So I just wanted to give an opportunity to talk about the reduction in height there and how that helps to at least achieve some of that compromise from that transition.
If you look at the screen in front of you, there are 13 changes that we've made in terms of our ongoing discussions. You know, some are as simple as someone didn't like the color of the fence, we changed that. A lot of them dealt with landscaping and other things like that, tree preservation. Our product is a 3-story product. We know how to build that. We know that is a successful product in the market. When we build a building and complete it, we can rent it up just like that. Now, you know, the neighbors said, hey, do 2 stories. That is really not what we do. It doesn't make the numbers work. It doesn't get us to the affordability point. But again, we're taking that first building on the entryway there, and we can make that 2-story. Again, it's an effort to compromise. I know it doesn't solve the neighbors' problem, but it is, again, is an effort. Someone said, what can you do? That's what we can do. And that's what the amendment that you have in front of you tonight. It reduces the density by 8 units. That's a simple math. You have 3 stories, so you take 1 story off, that's 8 units. So that's where we are. It's a better product than what we started with.
Any other questions or comments from council members? Councilmember Graham?
Just one quick question, Jeff. The traffic study update, was that done on a holiday weekend?
It was, one of the counts I looked was done on February 12th of this year, which
Okay.
was a Wednesday.
Yeah.
And we are required to go look at MORPC because MORPC is the keeper of all sorts of traffic counts. And sometimes if they don't have a current count, then they tell you what the growth rate is. And then you put that in your computer and you spit it out. So that's what we did. The county looked at it, the city looked at it. They didn't have any problems with their counts or anything.
Okay, so then no, not a holiday. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from council members? Seeing them. Thanks, Jeff. I want to thank the residents that have been engaged on this project for months. I mean, when you talk about engaging with zoning, particularly for the first time, understanding these processes, they can be difficult to really bring to bear what those mean and sort of the different places, whether or not it's the Development Commission, the Area Commission, et cetera. But folks have consistently engaged on this project all the way up to this morning, willing to take some time out of their day to come meet with me, which was one of the reasons why the amendment we have here today before us was one of the things that I took away from that meeting was very seriously about folks wanting to find a way to at least get some more compromise that's here. You know, I think one of the things I've heard from the Area Commission consistently about this is that concern around holistically the numbers of changes that are happening within the community itself, and I think that's something that this body takes very, very seriously. And you know, I wish we were not relying upon area plans from 1994, and while we're getting to the point of changing those, you know, it's difficult for us to really approach this in a way that's really looking about what is appropriate today and into the future in one single piece of legislation. But unfortunately, it is a question of whether or not you know, additional housing on this site is appropriate at its level. Certainly reasonable minds can disagree, but we're talking about dozens of new units that will have affordability attached to them. Again, a number of different changes that have been made by the applicant throughout this process. And again, I think a firm commitment from council understanding that transportation investments have to happen within this area, given the amount of development pressures that's now existing within this area. That is a given. I think that Council President and Councilmember Green was literally on a bus tour in this area just this past week, and I have talked to both of them who have said, yeah, we need to double down on how we're investing within that area. And I think this body repeatedly has seen that from other zonings that have come through of areas of town that we did not realize the amount of development that was happening. I think when we talk about, you know, Mr. Blushman talking about this gets identified within service, this gets identified within this body. But ultimately, when we think about the boxes that this project checks, as far as the priorities that this body has set out for zoning matters, as it's talked about creating new housing units, I think while, again, there's never going to be a perfect project at this point, the amount of growth that Columbus is experiencing, if a perfect site exists, it already has housing built on it. So we are working through right now lots of very difficult decisions on where we need to invest and how we need to invest in order to make sure that these developments are as complementary as they can be, given the pressure that we have about bringing new housing online as quickly as we can within the city of Columbus. So therefore, at this point, unless there's any other questions or comments from my colleague, I move to amend as submitted to the clerk by voice.
Thank you, Chair. And before I call the vote, the Chair's right. Councilmember Green, Councilmember Deakar, and myself spent about 2.5 hours on Demorest Road with the commissioners last weekend. It's really interesting because we talk at council about growth, we talk about adding units, and sometimes we're talking from a 30,000-foot view. Going out and being on that bus tour with the residents, you see two things. You see, one, how beautiful of a community that we have in this side of town, and you see literally how much development is happening in such a small area of the community. And then, and I said this when we were on the tour, that we need housing. We need it in all parts of the community, and we are asking builders to build housing. And that's truthfully what we have here, a builder who is building actually good quality stock housing. This is not, it's good housing. And it's actually not on the builder to do the infrastructure. It's going to be on us. And if we are saying that that the builders need to build, we also have to, and I think that's what you heard from the colleagues today, to say, well, then we also have to create the infrastructure to allow for that. And I will just say, it's not just the roads. We saw that we need rec centers out there. We saw that with this type of growth, we're going to need to make sure that we have the appropriate safety facilities in this area. And that in itself is not just on the builder. That's going to be on us. And so I'm going to support this as well, even though I know, and what my concern, if there was my biggest concern, is that this is not an anti-development commission. It's not. And I don't want you to become one. I want you to continue to welcome your new neighbors into this area and hold us accountable for the infrastructure that you need to keep this community moving forward. That's on us, and we will hold that. And so look to us, hold us accountable, but we hear you. And so with that, please call the vote.
Bankston. Yes. Barosa de Padilla. Yes. Beatty.
Yes.
Deakauer. Yes. Dorans.
Yes.
Green.
Yes.
Remy.
Yes.
White. Yes. President Harden.
Yes, ordinance passes.
Council President, that's amended.
Amended, please, I apologize.
I now move for passage as amended by voice.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bankston. Yes. Barosa de Padilla.
Yes.
Beatty.
Yes.
Deakauer.
Yes.
Dorans.
Yes.
Green.
Am I allowed to say something before I vote?
Sure.
I want to thank everyone for coming out here tonight, and this has been an especially difficult vote for me as someone who is also your neighbor, who knows this area very well, who has a very close relationship with our area commission and a lot of respect for Zoning Chair McKay, and the way that you approach this type of work. And I also just want to thank my colleagues because, it is, we have work to do to remain accountable to the investments that are needed in this area. I said this earlier, I think this is a good project. And so I am going to vote yes on this. I wasn't sure walking in the door how I was going to, but I just want to let all of you know that I look forward to being a dog on a bone about, these issues as we're going forward, because I know this is not going to be the last time that we're going to have these. And I know there are some other applications that are currently under consideration that probably have even a more intense impact. So if I get feisty down the road, I don't want it to come as a surprise to anybody, but Councilmember Barosa de Padilla, working with you in public service to just remain vigilant about how we are thinking about the way that we're investing in this area, because I do believe that our zoning chair is right. This has been a long overdue. They've long very respectfully requested for us to provide them the tools they need to be able to plan thoughtfully and still have been good partners and have come to us in good faith over many, many years. And so I'm looking forward to doing the same back with them. So thank you. So I vote yes.
Remy? Yes. White? Yes. President Harden?
Yes, now the ordinance is passed.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 2684-2025 to amend ordinance number 1750-2 passed December 2nd, 2022 for property located at 1988 Hilliard Run Road by repealing section 1 and 3, replacing with new section 1 and 3 to modify commitments regarding building setback line for property at the LC4 Limited Commercial District. Ordinance number 1570-2 passed December 20th, 2002. Rezone 30.62 plus acres at 1818 Hilliard and Rome Road from LC4 Limited Commercial District to LC4 Limited Commercial District to allow additional outparcels for shopping center developments which have since been developed. This ordinance amends the front building setback line from Hilliard and Rome Road for parcel number 560-268-009, addressing 1988 Hilliard Rome Road by reducing the front setback line from a minimum of 60 to 30 feet. The remainder of the commitments within the limited overlay text still applies. All the sections of ordinance number 1750-02 will remain unchanged. This amendment is supported by city staff and the Far West Area Commission. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Green, Remy, White, President Pro Tem Dorans.
Ordinance passed. Next, we have ordinance 2694-2025 to rezone 1156 Oakland Park Drive, being 9.07 plus acres located at the northeast corner of Oakland Park Avenue and Atwood Terrace from CPD Commercial Plan Development District, C1 Commercial District, and R3 Residential District to CP D Commercial Plan Development District. The site consists of one parcel developed with a plant nursery, and the requested rezoning brings that existing nursery into alignment with zoning and will allow for commercial development as reflected in the CPD text and site plan. Proposal is approved by City Staff, Development Commission, and the North Linden Area Commission. Do my colleagues have questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Green, Remy, White, President Pro Tem Dorans.
Passed. Next, we move into the council variances portion of our agenda. We have ordinance 2289-2025 to grant a variance provisions of section 3333.35G private garage of the Columbus City Codes for property located at 2410 Demarest Road to allow increased garage height for an apartment complex in the LAR1 Limited Apartment Residential District. This is a companion variance to the rezoning ordinance we heard earlier on our agenda. Requested council variance will allow the increased height of a detached garage from 15 to 16 feet. Columbus Citywide Planning Policies, also known as C2P2, recommends that the roof pitch should be appropriate based upon the roof pitch of nearby buildings. The proposed garage height variance allows for roof pitches that are aligned with this recommendation. Do my colleagues have, or I'm sorry, this has approvals from city staff and the Westland Area Commission. Do my colleagues have questions or comments? Seeing none, I move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Green, Remy, White, President Pro Tem Dorans.
Accepted. Next, I move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Green, Remy, White, President Pro Tem Dorans.
Adopted. Next, I move to amend as submitted to the clerk.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Green, Remy, White, President Pro Tem Dorans.
Amended. And finally, I move for passage as amended.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Green, Remy, White, President Pro Tem Dorans.
Passed as amended. Next, we have ordinance 2660-2025 to grant a variance provisions of section 3363.01 Manufacturing District, 33.0914 Height Districts of the Columbus City Codes for property located at 2025 South High Street to allow a multi-unit residential development with increased building height in the M Manufacturing District. This site consists of 9 parcels developed with a variety of industrial uses, and the requested council variance will allow a multi-unit residential development with no density limitation in the M District. The variance to increase allowable building height from 35 to 60 feet is also included in this request. Proposal is approved from city staff and the Columbus Southside Area Commission. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Green, Remy, White, President Pro Tem Dorans.
Accepted. Next, I move to adopt. I'm sorry. Move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Green, Remy, White, President Pro Tem Dorans.
Adopted. And finally, move for passage. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Green, Remy, White, President Pro Tem Dorans.
Passed. Next, we have ordinance 2693-2025 to grant a variance provisions of section 333-2.035, R3 Residential District, 3312.49C required parking, and 333-2.05A4 Area District Lot with requirements to Columbus City Codes for property located at 1097-1099 East 18th Avenue to allow a two-unit dwelling with reduced development standards in the R3 Residential District. Site consists of a undeveloped parcel, and the proposed council variance is required because the current zoning district only allows single-unit dwellings, while the applicant proposed to construct a two-unit dwelling on this site. Variance to lot width and required parking are also included in this request. Proposal has approvals from city staff and the South Linden Area Commission. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Green, Remy White, President Pro Tem Dorans.
Accepted. Next, I move to adopt the findings of staff, the findings of council. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Green, Remy White, President Pro Tem Dorans.
Adopted. And finally, move for passage. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Green, Remy White, President Pro Tem Dorans.
Passed. Next, we have ordinance 2695-2025 to grant a variance provisions, section 3361.02 permitted uses and 3363.41 storage of Columbus City Codes for property located at 1156 Oakland Park Avenue to allow storage uses associated with a plant nursery garden center in the CPD Commercial Plan Development District. This is a companion variance or rezoning we considered earlier tonight's agenda that will allow storage of materials and vehicles that are directly related to a nursery's operations. Proposal is approved from City Staff and the North Linden Area Commission. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Green, Remy White, President Pro Tem Dorans.
Accepted. Next, I move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Green, Remy White, President Pro Tem Dorans.
Adopted and finally move for passage. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Green, Remy White, President Pro Tem Dorans.
Passed. Next, we have ordinance 2696-2025 to grant a variance provisions, section 3332.037, R2 Residential District, 3312.49 required parking, and 333.2.5A4 Area District Lot with requirements, and 333.2.14 R2 Area District requirements, and 333.2.19 fronting, 333.2.25 maximum side yard required, 333.2.26C minimum side yard permitted, and 333.2.27 rear yard of the Columbus City Codes for property located at 285 East Moeller Street to allow a two-unit dwelling on one lot with reduced development standards in the R2F Residential District. This site consists of one parcel developed a single-unit dwelling and an existing detached garage. A council variance is required because the current zoning district does not allow two single-unit dwellings on one lot, while the applicant proposes to construct a dwelling above the existing detached garage, better known as a carriage house. Variances to area lot, fronting, lot width, rear yard, and parking are included in this proposal. It has approvals from city staff and the Columbus South Side Area Commission. Any questions or comments?
I just want to comment that that is a lovely-looking ADU.
Thank you, Councilmember Beatty. I was wondering when you get to it. I next move to adopt the findings of staff. I move to accept the staff report into evidence as an exhibit. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Green, Remy White, President Pro Tem Dorans.
Accepted. Next move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Green, Remy White, President Pro Tem Dorans.
Adopted and finally move for passage. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Green, Remy White, President Pro Tem Dorans.
Passed. Next, we have ordinance 2701-2025 to grant a variance provisions, section 3332.039 R4 Residential District, 3312.49C to require parking in the Columbus City Codes for property located at 2948 East 7th Avenue to allow a Type A childcare facility with reduced parking in the R4 Residential District. The site consists of two parcels developed with a single-unit dwelling, and the requested council variance will allow the existing dwelling to be used as a Type A childcare home, a use that would otherwise be not allowed in this zoning district. A variance to reduce require parking from 5 spaces to 2 are also included in the request. It has approvals from city staff and the East Columbus Civic Association. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Green, Remy White, President Pro Tem Dorans.
Accepted. Next, move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Green, Remy White, President Pro Tem Dorans.
Adopted. And finally move for passage. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Green, Remy White, President Pro Tem Dorans.
Passed. Next, we have ordinance 2701-2025 to grant a variance provisions to section 3356.03 C4 permitted uses, the Columbia City Codes, for the property located at 229 East 11th Avenue to allow a rooming house in the C4 Commercial District. Site consists of one parcel developed with a rooming house, and the requested council variance will legitimize the existing use, and is required because the current zoning district does not allow residential uses unless they are located above certain commercial uses. Proposal is approved from city staff, the University Area Commission, and the University District Impact Review Board. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move to accept the entire staff report into evidence.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Green, Remy White, President Pro Tem Dorans.
Accepted. Next, move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Green, Remy White, President Pro Tem Dorans.
Adopted. And finally, move for passage. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Green, Remy White, President Pro Tem Dorans.
Thank you. Passed. That is all we have in tonight's zoning agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Green, Remy White, President Pro Tem Dorans.
We are adjourned.